Hey there, guys. What is going on? Welcome back to the Real Cast Podcast Movie Monday. We have a special show today because today is, you know what today is?
Sunday?
Yes, but today is a special day because today is Superhero Summer.
Oh, yes.
Oh,
yeah.
It's Superhero Summer.
I just want to make sure you knew that's what it was.
Yeah, this is what happens when you don't prepare for the show. This is all me, actually.
I didn't get the memo.
Yeah, I didn't give them the memo. That's totally my fault. Totally my
It's like
fault.
it's Father's Day. I thought that was too obvious.
Yeah, superheroes. Dad are superheroes.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Yeah, actually, you might want to be careful. Parents don't have parents do well around superheroes, so that would be a little bit careful.
Any mothers see this, Hakeem? I don't know you. It's like, I don't know. Is there somebody over there? I don't know.
But yeah, we got a few movies we're going to go through today. We're going to have a special guest today. We actually have a special guest that's with us today. He's usually on Trailer Talk Tuesday, but he had some words that he wanted to share about a particular movie.
Well, and he had some very profound words. They were really, really cool. I'm glad you shared them with me. And I said I tipped my proverbial hat to Hakeem because they were quite enlightening. So that's really cool.
Very true.
Thank you, sir.
Very true. But we've seen... we're going to go through 3 movies today, and we have another scene that we'll probably go through. We're going to talk about the Captain Marvel. I don't know if you'll be able to stick around for that one or not. I hope that you will, but the Captain Marvel deleted scene, the one that's causing all the controversy.
I want to stay for that one. Is there anything we can do? Is that our other guest joining us for that?
I don't think so, but...
I definitely want to be here for that. Okay. I do. Okay. I have some words for that, too.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure a lot of people have words for it. I have a very unpopular opinion about it. Yes, I do. But I will wait. I will wait. I will share it with you, and you'll see. You know, we'll keep you in touch. Have you seen that deleted scene?
No.
Yeah, okay, so we'll show it to you right before we start that segment of the show. We'll show it to you.
I want to watch his reactions.
and so we got 3 movies we're going to talk about today, and today we have Men in Black. Yep. We have Godzilla, and we have Dark Phoenix. So those are the 3 movies we're talking about today. I said we'll touch on the Captain Marvel deleted scene because a lot of people have had a lot of opinions about that.
So why not us?
Of course,
not?
Let's just join in.
It's like a good stew. You got to throw a little bit of everything in there, so it's our turn to be thrown into the pot.
Yeah, and I don't think anyone has said anything from my point of view on it just yet. So it'll be interesting. But
I'm all a Twitter nation.
But first, we're going to talk about the movie we just saw earlier today, and that will be Captain. Sorry, not Captain Marvel. We're talking about Men in Black. The men and women in black.
Yes, because there aren't just men in black anymore. Well, there never was anyway, but okay. We just didn't see that story from those particular perspectives, I guess.
Yes.
I suppose. Because I do remember from the original Men in Black, there were actual women in the office, and I saw them, so they were obviously agents. But we just didn't see a storyline from their point of view.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So we have Men in Black International, Men and Women in Black International. Yep. And just initial thoughts. It was a movie.
It was. It had pictures.
Yeah.
Yes. Things happened.
There were actors.
There were. There were special effects. There were aliens. Because it's important in an alien type movie. You have to have aliens. Yep. There were grotesque aliens. There were cute aliens. There were weird aliens. There were a lot of aliens that just were there, I guess, as background. And
right.
There was fan shout out to the Worm Boys or whatever they were called from some of the first movies.
Yeah, the Worms.
Whatever. And I don't recall any other fan service type.
Not really, except for that one thing that you noticed that I didn't catch. It's not before my time. I think it's just I didn't catch it. But the Space Invaders logo.
Oh yeah. That was part of the it denotes some kind of special safe house or thing or whatever.
Right.
It's like Space Invaders symbol. That's kind of funny.
Right. So let's go through some of the good.
You got so many notes. I don't know if we can get to this.
I don't have many. I really don't.
You shouldn't know. He shouldn't even waste a piece of paper.
I kind of feel bad now.
I know. It's like, poor tree. I'm sorry.
But some of the good notes, some of the jokes landed. Very few, but some of the jokes landed.
I laughed out loud once or twice.
I smiled to myself a few times or whatever, but I was like, oh, okay, that was pretty funny. Some of the jokes landed okay, but most of them did not. And I believe that was the main reason for that was they were just TMI, too much improv.
Right.
And a lot of comedies today, I feel like, have that problem. It's just like, they have these riff sessions or whatever where they just let the actors just kind of go about and just kind of do their thing and just like, kind of trump who's being funnier and stuff, or who can say the funniest line and everything. And may work in certain cases, in certain environments and certain movies. But even then, you kind of want to keep that to a minimum. And you really want to script that because not to say Chris Summers isn't funny. He's a funny guy, Tessa Thompson, she's a funny woman and everything. Right. What's the agent? Oh, what's her name again?
Emma Thompson.
Emma Thompson, yeah. So she's funny. She was fairly funny in Men in Black 3, but she has her moments. She's funny and everything. So you can give them material to work with and stuff, but when you have too much improv and the scenes are going on too long, that's when the movie really starts to drag, especially in the beginning, like the first, I would say, 20 or 25 minutes or so, because the movie, at least, from my perspective, took a long time to get going. And that was a lot of that was due to the comedy, just trying to cram so much in there, and it was just kind of like, character development would be nice, but comedy, it's fine or whatever, because even in I would say Men in Black 2, they had that same problem, because Men in Black, it started out, it was more mystery than it was comedy.
Right.
Yeah, and like the very first one, like the second one, it just tried to ham in on the funny. It let there were moments where they just let Will Smith just kind of just do something funny, say something funny or whatever. Right. They do the same thing with Chris Hemsworth and Tessa Thompson.
And I'd really blame the Ghostbusters one for really starting this whole improv. I really do. So not everybody can be Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd, Harold Ramis. I'm like. I really blame that movie for starting all this.
Yeah. Oh well, even they couldn't really recapture that lightning in the bottle that they had in the first movie.
To the second,
because the second one wasn't terrible. It was just kind of like, which is more like this movie or whatever. There are some weird moments that happen in this that for the sake of the story. There's a moment when
Well, part of it. Is the foreshadowing, which you're like, okay, you saw that one coming, then he went, okay, well, I know that's going to happen.
Yes.
Because we saw that first part where at the very beginning, where Liam Neeson's character, Agent High T, because he's British, you get that? Well, that's such a rip-roaring little funny thing. And what's his name? The other agent guy, Agent
H.
H, yeah. Going to fight the Hive. They're like, ooh, the Hive, what's that? And then he gets knocked out by a tentacle or something and gets thrown down an elevator shaft, grabs onto the elevator, has a moment with the people in the elevator and flashes them, and then runs back up and takes another elevator up or whatever and gets up and he's fine. You're like, after hitting a couple of steel girders on the way down, after hitting the gate.
Getting hit by something metal. Something
well,
metal.
something hit him first, and then but he's fine, Yeah. So there was a lot of that going on. But yeah, it was like, that was a bit of foreshadowing. You're like, okay, wait a minute, something's weird about that. And then the girl meets this little alien thing, which is kind of one thing you wrote down about the neuralizer thing.
Right.
And I was like, and I knew, are you going to see that alien again?
Yep.
And they sure, yep.
You sure do.
And I said, hey, that's the same one. He goes,
same one.
Same one.
Same one.
Yeah. Because, aliens, when they come to Earth, they don't leave, and they get involved in something that you're involved with, so that way you will run across them again by accident.
Yeah, very, very conveniently,
Very convenient plot device right there. Very convenient, as we would say from Ryan out there. So another shout out to Ryan.
Yeah.
But that's the thing with movies nowadays. Yeah. I mean, Hakeem, you've seen that too, probably, right? Where they do something. And then it's just like it's set up for the convenience of because it has to happen in the story. As again, Ryan would say, because it has to happen in the story.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Okay. And so it has to happen in the story this way. So when they're and they write it in a situation where they go, well, we have to write a way out. We'll go, oh, well, we'll just have the alien thing come back as an adult. And he remembers her. Oh, I remember you. You saved me or helped me or released me or got me away from the bad guys or really the good guys.
Yeah.
And now it's like, cool. I'm now going to switch to your side because you helped me out when I was a baby or something. And I'm like, really?
Which apparently the thing remembers. You know, I'm just like, hey, from toddler to, I'm like, hey, that's. Hey, look, maybe their alien race remembers that well.
Yeah, so their brains, you know. I don't know.
Yeah. So but the movie is not very short of that. You know, there's there are quite a few. Like that one was probably one of the biggest ones. Yeah. Because that's when Chris Hemsworth and. When H and M, I'm just trying to call them by their character names. When H and M actually get into some trouble, there is a moment when you kind of you don't really see them getting out of that particular situation. Right. So when they get into that situation, it's kind of like, oh, well, that particular alien just happened to be working for this big crime boss that Chris Hemsworth happened to be dating from back in the
day. So it's not just that these two ran across each other in the agency. They just also happened to run across the people that they were now in together league with. One was the employee of the other. So they had to have that kind of weird crossover. But that was kind of foreshadowed as well at the beginning with the other hive issue that you find out later. You're like, okay, it's one of these two guys, and you're like, wait a minute, that thing happened at the beginning when they weren't together, so there's something going on with that. And I don't know. Then there was the setup of, oh, well, we're gonna, inhabit this guy in some way. That way he can keep an eye out for here. But that's the thing about that. I was like, wait a minute. This is Men in Black. They've been doing this a very long time since, aliens have been coming to Earth since the 50s or whenever.
Right.
They don't have any kind of technology that it can determine. Because they talked about, the hive infects other creatures' DNA and takes over them. Yeah. Wouldn't they have checked them out after the big battle and determined, oh, well, you have that DNA. Oh, no, you're infected or something.
Even if he didn't know.
Or would they not have some sort of detection thing like with the girl at the beginning? Well, the girl's, detection unauthorized. They have all this technology. You think, oh, well, they can track you, or they can detect you, or they can go, wait, you're not really you. But then apparently that doesn't happen. And then all of a sudden later they go, oh, they are tracking you. It's like, which is it? I mean, you can't have it. You can't have this inconsistency or convience both ways.
Exactly.
We have technology to help us when we want it to, but not when we don't want it to.
But not,
what?
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. Exactly. And the other thing I would say is, and Emma's very intelligent. She's a very intelligent person. She's comes across, you've seen it in the trailers. She finds the MIB. She finds their hideout and everything. And the thing that I always find funny about that, and this has actually been since the first movie, I'm like, does no one ever just walk in that door by accident? Right. I just see like a random dude just sitting there or whatever, and I'm just like, she walks in and it's almost like she knew what to expect when she walked in. Right. And she's like, oh, I'm dressed up like this and everything.
Like them,
and then
act a certain way.
Yeah, and just kind of like, oh, did they bring such and such in? And he's just like, yeah, they reading his newspaper and everything like that. I'm just like, how do you know how they operate? Right. How did you know?
How do you know they don't have a scan card when you go in?
Yeah.
Retinal ID. I mean, remember, this is technology. They have this. You have this. They have this device that will blank the brains. You saw it and used. So why would you not think there's some kind of DNA reading thing, or like I said, eye scanner, or some kind of chip thing in your arm, or something, or not maybe fingerprints or palm scan or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Go, I'm just going to walk in and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, but again, it has to be done because it's the movie and it has to happen in the movie. So
exactly.
There you go.
Exactly. Like, it's a very weird thing how that actually comes about and how she actually joins the Men in Black and everything. So it's kind of like, not sure that I buy this. I would have... And they make a point to say in the movie, like, man, like back in the day, we would have recruited her. And I was thinking, like, why didn't you? Why wouldn't it be that way? Because she was really smart. She was able to hack into satellites and everything without them knowing about it. So I was like,
they did find it, but also she, part of the montage at the beginning, she was applied to all these agencies, like
CIA,
CIA.
FBI,
we knew FBI.
yeah.
We saw a few others that we don't, exactly, but there were some comedic moments that were kind of funny in there, kind of giggly, not laugh out loud, but kind of situation. You're like, okay, that's kind of funny. But then I thought, she's working at a call center or something for computers or something. And I'm like, why wouldn't she? I wrote that down. Why wouldn't she want to work for the FBI? Because that's not really where she wants to be. But if she's super smart and was able to, perform at the top level of all these other things, because guy was looking over her application. Well, these are great.
Right.
Why wouldn't you join an agency that investigates things and have more stuff at your disposal or something?
Exactly.
But instead, she was sort of freelancing at a dead end job as a computer support person,
tech support or something.
I don't know. It just seemed kind of weird to me. I don't know. So it just seemed odd. Like, why wouldn't you want to be in the CIA? They would be able to find out some stuff, probably, right? I don't know, or have more resources or something. I don't know. I don't know.
Right, and it was just like I said, it was like that whole her joining the MIB was just, it was kind of weird.
Right.
And like I said, some of that probably has to do with how everything's structured in that first 20 minutes. It's kind of like, it's real shaky.
Right.
The Men in Black show up because of an alien disturbance, and they don't investigate the alien disturbance. They just kind of they show up, and it's her parents, of course. But they show up, it's her parents. They found an alien and rummaging around in their trash or whatever. And the Men in Black go through the trouble of explaining it to them,
what it actually is.
Yeah.
No, it's a dangerous. What's it called? Terrakian or something.
Yeah, or something like that.
And I'm like,
and then they just leave.
They scan the brain and go, well, no, it's just a raccoon. Don't worry about it.
Yeah,
just put your lids back on and you're good.
Yeah, and they just leave. In every movie up to that point, the Men in Black, they show up. They at least take care of the disturbance, or at least investigate or something, and then they okay, well, it's not here anymore. Let's, boom, their lives go on about our business.
But not in this situation.
Not in this situation. No. They don't go investigate the house. They don't look through it or anything like that. It's just like
because they asked the parents, is anybody else in the house? Oh, my daughter, but she's asleep. Yeah, but how do the parents know? How would they know? They're going to take the word of the parents?
Exactly.
With all this other noise going on?
Yes.
The kid could have woken up and saw something. Why wouldn't you go up there and go, well, let's go check on her a minute to make sure she's okay?
Yeah.
I mean, that makes sense, right? The windows are open.
Yes.
Maybe the raccoon or whatever it was could have gotten in the window.
And that's what I'm saying. I'm like... they've always done that, and I'm like, regardless of the quality of the movies, they've always done that, and it was just weird that happened.
It seems they're more
minutes.
adept now,
Yeah, apparently so.
But there was a lot of things in the technology that didn't make sense, but I guess they had to, like the train. It's a train. Only designed for Men in Black people to use. So why does it look like a rundown subway? And then it changed into a super spacey, sonic-y tube, super zippy thing. I'm like, why would it have to look like an old subway when no one else goes down there but Men in Black? So why do that?
Right.
Just to show, oh, look, we can do special effects.
Right. Right.
Is that it? I mean, it just seemed was weird.
There's a few moments in there where it was just kind of like, why did you do this? And I'm just kind of like, well, probably because it looked cool.
It showed gadgets. Yeah, we got to show the cool gadgets and transforming car. Because in the other movies they had transforming car, so you have to do that.
Up the ante.
You got to go. Now we got a transforming train.
Yeah,
I guess it's like you can't just do the car thing because they did that, and so they did the car again. They go, well, let's have a motorcycle that flies, and let's have a train that transforms. Why? Well, I don't know. It just looks cool.
Yeah, and instead of the trunk full of weapons and stuff like that, it's the whole car is actually has
grab the
weapons
tailpipe,
everywhere.
Grab this other thing,
grab the windshield, hubcap and everything. So it's like, okay, it's there's a lot of things where you're just kind of like, cool, I guess.
I will say about the alien hover anti-grav flying, hyperspace bike thing. Apparently, it comes with its own tools because it broke down and they were fixing it. And I'm like, where'd the tools come from?
Comes with tools, comes with wood for you to build a fire in case you're out in the middle of nowhere.
You got to build a fire in the middle of a desert. Man, that alien motorcycle's got you covered.
Yes,
it's got everything except for like a turkey dinner. I guess it may not have that, but. But yeah, it had wood to build a fire in the middle of a desert, and it had tools to fix it. So that's always good.
Yep. And it has the magical ability to turn a desert into a soundstage.
Yeah, because
a lot of echo.
A lot of echoes. I was like, where's that coming from?
I asked you. I thought it was like, am I going crazy? Why is there an echo? But so we're like, no, it was actually in the movie, but not. It was funny. It was like not the whole scene had an echo, just like particular points. So I was just kind of like, did they just miss that or whatever?
Well,
like editing.
I don't know. I mean, maybe I don't know. Sound is funny, and so maybe if. Since the guy was little and he's talking and is facing down, maybe I guess it could be an echo. I guess, but yeah, it did sound weird.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what else to say. I mean, it was a movie.
Yeah.
And it had a cute girl-ish and a handsome guy-ish and funny times-ish and special effects-like things in it.
Yeah. What'd you think of the special effects? I'm torn on it.
Well, they were good. I mean, for the most part, I don't think it was anything really bad, was it?
The special effects when it comes to like the spaceship and stuff like that, and like the really huge aliens, I'm okay with, and I'm actually kind of liked it, but there's something.
Well, there was very cartoonish with some of the aliens. I know, like the one with the one with the big brain that kept slowing things, speeding things up and down. I was like, okay, that was weird.
It was, maybe it's just me, or maybe I'm just being old fashioned, but I do miss like in the first movie, like there was like people in makeup and prosthetics and stuff like that, and it felt more inventive.
Well, that looks real because it's real.
Yeah,
like with Will Smith in the Squid Baby. That was an animatronic thing.
Right.
And so this movie, I don't think they did much of that.
There was a lot of
CGI.
Yeah, a lot of CG. And like I said, for the spaceship, bigger aliens, stuff like that, I'm like, okay, yeah. It's not that it looked bad. It's just it doesn't fool your eye anymore.
But that's what I'm saying, and we talked about this before. It's like when you throw that in so much with real people, is you're taking out of the fantastical element of the story because your eye is trying to figure out what's real and what's not real
and what's wrong.
And so now you're pulled out of the story instead of like enjoying the story. You're like, was that real? Was that not real? So your kind of logical or even creative part of your brain is going like, I can't. Is that real or is that not real?
Right.
I mean, where does it? I'm like, that's kind of weird. And then you start looking for details instead of focusing on the story.
Right.
And then of course, you pulled out of it.
Exactly.
Instead of going, oh, that's interesting. Oh, that's neat. Because again, if you go back to the old original Jurassic Park, you didn't look at stuff and kind of go, well, was that real? Not real. It blended in so effortlessly because they used CGI very little.
And used a lot of animatronics, a lot of practical effects, and
even at the end when you saw the Tyrannosaurus and that was CGI with the sign and everything.
Right.
There wasn't that people were like, oh, that's kind of silly. I go, yeah, but the rest of the movie they were like, yeah, but it was really good because of these real people, and you kind of like, wow, I didn't know that was a real person. And so then when you learn that, right? I mean, Hakeem, you've had it kind of right. When you learn that it was a real person in a suit, you went, that was a guy in a suit? Are you kidding me? And so that makes it more awesome instead of going like, oh yeah, that's kind of
yeah.
So now it's kind of the opposite, which is sad because technology's gone pretty good, but
yeah, and I mean, like I said, it's not that it looked bad; it looked off. In certain scenes, especially like when they're in the headquarters and everything, because that's, you remember from the first one, like, yeah, they did have some CGI characters, but they also had a lot of like people in prosthetics and like makeup, and they, like Star Wars, like you go into the cantina and you see all these different fellows or whatever, the devils over there in the corner.
Because hey, the devil ain't going to Coruscant, man. He's gonna hang out in the Outer Rim, dude.
There you go.
He's gonna hang out with the scum of the universe. Come on.
Exactly. That's right.
Why would he not?
Yeah, I mean, come on. So like I kind of miss that.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I want to hold it against the movie or not, but it's just like one of those things, like you did it in the first one, you stepped away from it for every other movie after that, and it's kind of like, man, you go more and more and more CGI, and I'm just like, I kind of miss.
Then I mean,
like there were
some,
just not a lot. There were some like people in makeup, but not a lot. Just really, it's just really people like with the motion capture, on their face and stuff.
Well, and I said to you earlier about this movie, I said basically it's if you take Men in Black 1 and you had a dash of Men in Black 2, and you had a dash of Men in Black 3. You know, had 3 scoops and some avocado, and mix it together. You have this movie because it's basically, it's like you got the MacGuffin from the first one with the galaxy. It's this thing.
Right.
A weird little doodad.
Right.
Then from the second one, you got the tentacle type creature.
Right.
And then, of course, from the second and the third one, you have a lot of kind of the silly overreactions and stuff. Like, you know, the girl touches something and stuff goes all over the place. Like in the first movie, Will Smith touches it and the thing goes all over the place.
Right.
So you got, it was just too much like the other movies to really be different. I mean,
That's
yes,
true.
you did have the hunky blonde surfer dude. You know, but you still had the wizened leader,
right?
You know, you still had the junior agent, you still had the kind of the comedic rapport interaction. You had the tech and the whatnot,
right.
and you know, and they kind of split. Like you had the little Pawnee guy, you know, throwing out some things.
Yeah, he had some one-liners put in there. I don't know about you. He was getting annoying to me after a while.
Yeah,
I was just like, man, somebody flick him across. But I mean, it's subjective. Some people might think he's hilarious or whatever. It just like for me, it was just kind of like.
But that's the thing. They had to put him in to make it different because there was. Other than the dog in the last movie and the worm guys, not last movie, but the ones before and the worm guys, that made it that. So that's his role in this. Like he's the dog, he's the worm guys or whatever.
Exactly.
So he's taken up that particular characterization or whatever. And
for the Jiminy Cricket.
Yeah, the Jiminy Cricket kind of thing. I don't know. But you know, hey, it's a movie.
Yeah.
And there were people in it.
Yeah.
And you know, if you like Chris Hemsworth, he has his shirt off a few times.
Yeah.
So if you like that,
he's actually a little skinnier in this one. He's not Thor build, but I mean he's still built, but it's he's not Thor built anymore.
Like
he's
brawn.
It's like
I mean,
he's toned
think
down
more of a runner kind of
Yeah.
exercise fitness guy as opposed to bodybuilder kind of guy.
Right.
But apparently he's superhero in the movie because. Man, he takes a lot of beatings and throwings and slaps around by alien tentacles and crashes on metal bars and the girl falls over pipes over like 2 stories and lands.
Just thrown across they're in the Eiffel Tower hitting metal bars and everything.
And they just like, get up and walk away. And they're just like, we're fine.
They're not even knocked out or anything. At least like in other movies and stuff, they get knocked out for a little bit. They may not be bruised, but they're just like, unconscious. But no.
Nope.
It's like, get up.
Reminds me of that the thing y'all did, the review for Mission Impossible Fallout with that scene the guy was fighting.
Oh yeah, the dude when they were fighting the Chinese guy in the bathroom and he was throwing him through the window and everything, he just kept getting back up. I was like, what the heck, man? I'm like, you don't just take a hit from Henry Cavill and just get right back. Like I was like, shake it off real quick. I'm like, no, you feel that. You feel that. At least at least groan when you get up. Make it look like it's hard.
But here's
or
the thing:
something.
like if you go back to Men in Black 1, when he's fighting the giant cockroach at the end and he swallowed Tommy Lee Jones, Will Smith looked beat up. He had like cuts and he goes, hey, that's all you got? That's all you got?
Yeah.
He's like, is that all you got?
Exactly.
And he's like, and then hitting this one, they're like, H. What are you doing? Oh no, him! I mean, and they're like still, hitting them with metal rebars and everything, and then they're getting thrown across the room.
Yeah.
Ejected into, I don't know, the void or something, whatever happened with the girl.
Yeah, apparently,
And then it's like, oh, we're cool.
Yeah, everything's fine.
Yeah, everything's great.
Hair still looks good.
Yeah, hair looks great. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so
that's about it, I guess.
That's about it. There's not much to say about this. I don't even know if I would because like I said, there's inconsistencies. There's a couple plot holes in there, but I don't know if I'd go as far as calling this like a really bad movie or anything. It's more so it's just like. I mean, it has all the basic elements of a movie. It
does. It has people.
Yeah.
It has the pictures. That's special effects. There's a sort of story.
Yeah, it has a story that it can follow and everything. It's just like nothing's. I wouldn't say anything. Nothing that happened in there like broke the movie. You know, like as far as like a plot hole that broke it or whatever.
Right. But like I said, the foreshadowing was pretty obvious.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Okay,
like,
well,
you can figure out.
We're never going to see the alien again. We did. We know who the bad guy is probably, and it was. So there's no surprises.
Right.
What you're really just looking at is the aliens and special effects.
Right.
And you know, Chris Hemsworth without a shirt on.
Right. Yeah.
So, and it's really funny because I don't recall. I mean, well, in this movie, I didn't like they didn't sexualize the girl at all. Although they mentioned that a little bit, like, "Are you pimping me out to this Prince alien guy or whatever?"
To the guy, yeah.
So there was that, I suppose, and then there was the kind of the Men in Black. Why is it? And she goes, and then was it Agent O's character? Like, I've had this discussion. Just don't go there. And I'm like, okay, haha, giggle.
Yeah.
But yeah, just kind of like, I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not good, but it's not terrible.
No.
You know, it's like it's.
If you've never seen a Men in Black movie,
you might be entertained.
Maybe
you might be entertained. You know, it is very much kind of going for that popcorn feel.
Right. Yeah.
Just kind of like, it's just a movie. Just gonna hang out, chill, whatever. But it's not anything like William has been saying this whole time. It's nothing new.
Yeah.
It's nothing new. It's the same stuff, different locations.
Yeah. You can see this without seeing any others and be like, okay, and understand basically what's going on.
Yeah.
It's not. I mean, even though it is sort of a sequel.
Yeah.
And they gave a nod to the original.
The originals. Yeah.
If you didn't see them and you saw this one, you might go, it was fun.
Yeah.
It was like,
yeah.
I mean, the main character is a plucky female. I mean, plucky male, doesn't matter. He's a plucky character.
Yeah.
Who, is trying to figure something out and like does it. You're like, okay, yay, they figured it out. And some of it was kind of obvious. It's like, hey, the birds are disappearing and someone just happens to homeless guy happens to stumble over to the area that has some kind of weird force field around it. You kind of go, that's strange.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know. But yeah, it was kind of like, obvious here, potholes there.
Yeah, it's probably the most middle of the road you could possibly be. like it doesn't even veer. it's just like pasted right on that double yellow line, just going right down.
Right. Well, actually, and you got the original pulled up here. I'm assuming from the original.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because in this movie, in that movie, you had the straight guy and you had the kind of the comedic guy. So you had Tommy Lee Jones as the straight man and Will Smith as the kind of the the opposite kind of a thing. This movie didn't have that. They were both comedy people.
Yeah.
They didn't you didn't have that you didn't have the element of opposites like you do in most places, like you'd see say in the Three Stooges, where you have the Stooges who are outrageous and the world is normal.
Right.
Or you have Laurel and Hardy, who's one guy's a big guy and the other guy's a short guy or what have you. Or in that case, you get the young, plucky, overreacting guy who's like, falling down over himself. The other agent's kind of just like, this goes on. So yeah, there wasn't really that, which I thought was a little unusual.
I mean, and
seemed different.
That's it was different in that regard. So, I'd say that. So yeah, if you don't have anything better to do,
and you got money in your pocket, and you just it's hot or something, and the weather's bad, I don't stay in the house. I guess you could go and see it, I suppose.
Or you could just pop in the first one.
Stay home on the first one. And just kind of go, that was good and fun. That was neat.
Yeah.
So do that too.
Yeah. All right, so we're going to finish up this segment, and then we're going to be back with segment number 2. We're going to talk about that here in just a second, but we will be back shortly. We'll see you then. Alright guys, so we're back for a quick second segment, and then we'll get on to our special guest, and we're getting ready to call him up here in just a little bit. But, so we've got this deleted scene that's come out for Captain Marvel. And everyone has been up in arms about it. It has one of the worst like to dislike ratios I've seen since Aladdin. The Aladdin trailer that came out. First one.
Well, Marvel pulled a lot of people's. They copyrighted a bunch of them.
Really?
It was a big to do. Geeks and Gamers and a few other people. That Star Wars girl. I think was another one.
Yeah, I do. I actually do remember that.
They pulled a lot of. They copyrighted tagged them because of copyright whatever. But they released that because they were. And it was interesting. I don't know the percentage of what they tag as negative. If they were just targeting them, I don't know. That I can't say, but I will say that a lot of people were tagged for copyright issues. But then since we're dropped, so after the reactions to this thing.
Right. So we're not going to show you the clip. You want to show the...
we don't want to get targeted.
Yeah, if you want to see the clip, we'll show you like stills and frames and stuff like that. But it is what it is. I see exactly why it's a deleted scene. It makes perfect sense.
Yeah, it doesn't really...
it does not gel with the rest of the film, and by definition, it would have made... Like with the rest of the film, like I said, we were talking about it earlier. Does she have a flaw really at all in the movie? Not really. Maybe you can count the stealing the motorcycle from the first, the original scene.
Right.
Not the original scene, but the scene that they went with or whatever. You can maybe count that. You can say like, but means to an end. She got to get from point A to point B or whatever. And I'm like, all right, fine, whatever. But in that instance, if you kept that particular part of the movie, then you would be telling people that, hey, this is okay. You can respond to something that's fairly minor, and you can respond like this, and it's okay. So I get why they cut it. 100% understand. I'm just like, yeah, I get that. I'm not offended by it, but I'm just saying like, yeah, I understand why you cut it. She doesn't look like this is not a good look for her right here. Right. So I was like, okay, I understand. I have an unpopular opinion about it, but I'll get your guys' thoughts first and whatever. I mean, I don't think. Do you really care, Hakeem? I was going to ask her anyway, but I was like, because we just watched it beforehand, but I was just like, do you really care? Character-wise, does it do anything for you at all?
I mean, again, as you said, I understood like why they cut it, because how they set her up for this entire movie and how it was played out. It wouldn't have made any sense for that to be there. Like, why is that there? So,
she over here looking at you like, you better not have a problem.
Her eyes are geared right at you.
It's like, what you say about me?
You better say
next.
that.
But William, what are your thoughts on it, just real quick? So. Do you really does it bother you as much as it does most people about it?
Well, maybe not as much. I mean, I do think the scene. Obviously, there was a severe overreaction on her part from a guy saying, "Hey, smile," or "Hey, how's it going?" "Hey, Cookie, how's tricks or something, whatever."
Right.
And I'm just like, she's not a machine. She's not a robot. I mean, it's not like she doesn't understand cultural interactions because she's in an alien culture with lots of different aliens. So.
Right.
I mean, I'm sure at some point she would have run across somebody saying something and they would go like, hey, you can't react that way or something, blah, blah, blah. So it just seemed weird to me. It was heavy-handed, which, pun intended there, with the crushing of the guy's hand. But even without the scene, I thought it was an odd choice for her to steal a motorcycle and clothes. And then we went like, hey, where did her costume, where did her outfit,
where did her outfit
go? It's like, because it's bulky. I mean, you saw it was all bulky.
It's very
and then she puts it on, and now there's a loose-fitting T-shirt and loose jeans. I'm like, what? I don't know. So that was odd, but I agree with you in terms of the fact that they kept saying how overreactionary and emotional she was, that this did do that. But then, like we said, if her reaction was this way towards a guy who had really no power over her anyway, I mean, strictly speaking, this guy was zero threat to her. So I'm like, why would she be so heavy-handed, literally, towards him, to a guy who has zero power over her? I mean, she's super powerful. She knows this. Yeah. I mean, she already knows she can shoot blasts from her fists.
Right.
And she's. I mean, to her, Earth people are basically cave people just about, because she lives in an alien culture with spaceships and stuff.
Yeah. And
so I'm just like, why would she at all consider this guy a threat? And not that I think she would, but then. I don't know. So, yeah, in some ways, I think her reaction was ridiculous.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's no reason for this scene to be in there.
Yeah.
But like I said, even without this scene, well, I mean, certainly with it, it's definitely like, whoa, she's not really a hero here.
Right.
But even in general, without that part, even her stealing the motorcycle and the clothes, I'm kind of like, so she's so not really a hero, I guess. or doing things that just like
a little questionable.
Yeah, I mean,
and like I said, I can roll with the stealing the motorcycle clothes or whatever, like means to an end. I get it. I'm not condoning it,
right?
Because I wouldn't condone. I don't condone Captain America stealing cars or whatever. But
that's from the horrible 90s.
Yeah, but it means to an end. Okay, I get it. That's not cool, but don't do that. But I understand the situation.
Mm-hmm.
This one, like I said, a little bit escalated.
Right. But it does give her the emotional overreaction like we were talking about. Because I kept mentioning that in the movie, and I'm like, but she doesn't show any emotions.
Right. And that's where I wanted to get into like my unpopular opinion of this.
Go for it.
I am not saying that this is okay. Do not get it twisted. I'm not saying that this is okay, but I'm saying that I wanted more of this in the movie. Because like Bill mentioned earlier, they have mentioned like, hey, you're being too emotional. You overreact and stuff like that. Hey, this is a perfect example of her overreacting or whatever.
Right.
And there's this whole thing like, with, the men in her life have treated her like crap. And, let's go out on a limb and say like, hey, yeah, her dad was an asshat, her whole life or whatever. Let's say like most of the men treated her like crap, while she was growing up and stuff like that. It's unlikely that all of them were that way, obviously, but is it possible that most of them were that way? Yeah, it's possible. Sure. And even though she goes through the movie not really remembering her past, she can still have this subconscious chip on her shoulder to where like, yeah, she has this problem. She gets angry. She gets way too angry. She lashes out towards men. And we see that this movie wanted to be so relevant. We see that all the time in our lives. We see anger everywhere we go. And if you think about it, when a person is a victim of racism, no matter what color, if a person is a victim of racism and it happens on multiple occasions, suddenly, wheels start turning in there, and then you start getting angry, and you start lashing out, and you start looking at everyone, that in that way, let's say it like it is. If a black person is a victim of racism, if it happens multiple times, even if it's just once, but if it happens multiple times, they start looking at white people like, oh, all white people are this way. All white people are privileged, and not looking at just those individuals who are assholes or whatever. Mm-hmm. They start looking at all people that way, all white people that way. Same thing for flip it around. It's like, okay, when somebody comes to the hood or whatever, and they get robbed or whatever, and it's like, oh, these motherfuckers are a bunch of savages. Excuse my language, but that's just that's just. It is what it is, man. They get into their minds. They get angry. People like women who have suffered rape and sexual advancements from men and stuff like that. They get this anger in their minds. Right. It's understandable that would happen. It's understandable, but when it starts creeping into everything, you start treating everyone that way, then that's not cool. And I think having more scenes like that where she's, being adverse towards men, where she's being, cynical and being hard to deal with around men, in this movie would have been great for her because it would have gave her more character growth, because getting over that, getting over your own demons, that's empowering. And this is what I said in the review. I said getting over your own demons is way more empowering and much more relevant to what's going on in the world now, because I still feel like her and Nick Fury, that relationship that they had, that was just way too chummy.
That's the thing, because Nick Fury wasn't really in charge of anything, right? But he was a higher ranked agent, and he was the knowledgeable one about things going on in this world, right? In this particular area, right? So she had to default to his expertise and knowledge and kind of how things worked. So you're right. Then that would be like there would be a lot more kind of them coming to loggerheads of, well, this is how we have to do it. Well, that's stupid or something. But they didn't really do that. Like, so they were very, very chummy about it.
Right, exactly. There should have been some adversity there.
Yeah.
And that's not the first role that Samuel L. Jackson has had like that. On the reverse side, he has dealt with this very same thing. And I'm getting ready to play a clip here from Die Hard with a Vengeance. And one of the things with Samuel L. Jackson's character in that movie is that he was extremely racially charged with everything. And he saw, I'll just play the clip. I'll play the clip and then I'll let you kind of see what I'm actually talking about here in terms of like, this is what he should be. This is what should have been happening.
Say it. You were gonna call me a nigga, weren't you? No, I wasn't. Yes, you were. What were you gonna call me? Asshole. How's that? Asshole. You got some fucking problem with me because I'm white, Zeus? Is that it? Huh? Have I oppressed you? Have I oppressed your people somehow?
And that's throughout the whole movie. Throughout most of the first part of this movie until he's called out on it right here. That is throughout most of this movie is that, understandably, Samuel L. Jackson's character he's very racially charged, understandably so. But Bruce has done, John McClane. John McClane has done nothing to him. He's done nothing to him. He's done nothing but try to help him and try to get him through this life-threatening situation. This, where New York is in danger at this point, and it's just like, hey, look, man, what the hell's wrong with you? And it's a verbal slap upside the head, in that case. And I feel like that same interaction should have been happening between Captain Marvel and Nick Fury, to where he comes out and just like, dude, what the frick is wrong with you at this point? So sorry for the language in the video, but I mean it just is what is radar film. So,
right, yeah.
But
he has to drop the bombs quite a few, right? So it is Samuel L. Jackson. So.
Yeah. But that's that. It's just that I felt like, man, we needed that so that we have that moment with her, and she just kind of realizes what am I doing? What am I doing? And it doesn't have to be front and center. Obviously the Kree and the war with the Kree and the Skrulls were front and center. Obviously that's the main focus of the movie, but you can still have that character arc with her, same way that Samuel L. Jackson's character Zeus in this movie in Die Hard with a Vengeance, same way that he has that character arc by the end of the movie, because I wouldn't say they're friends, but they're it's like, and they live through a life life and death situation together. That does something to people, brings them together or whatever. Just you start seeing hey, we're not different people all. So we're not friends, but we may not be friends, but we're not enemies anymore. So I felt like that is what Captain Marvel should have been. That's the arc that she should have had in the movie. And having scenes her crushing a dude's hand or whatever. And, and like I said, more of that, let her have some adversity with Nick Fury and stuff,
Or at least push back a few times.
Yeah.
Well, we have to do this way. I don't want to do it that way. Yeah, but if we don't, then there'll be all these agents on top of us, et cetera, et cetera. She'll be like, fine.
Exactly.
And get exasperated.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Or make some kind of...
What's that?
Make some kind of comment about how men always screw up something or something like that.
Yeah, but also make it so she gets exasperated, and there's actual emotion instead of them keep saying she's too emotional, and there's really not any emotion there. I don't know, other than a raised eyebrow.
Yeah.
So
but that's like I said, that's up to the writers and stuff, and and I still don't know what happened with that movie. Maybe she read the script and just really wasn't happy, didn't want to do it. It's quite possible, but
I don't know.
Yeah, but it is what it is. But yeah, that's my unpopular opinion on the scene. I was like, hey, I completely understand why it was deleted. It should not be in the movie that we got. Definitely shouldn't be in there. But I feel like, if I were writing this movie, hell yeah, I'd have that scene in there. I'd have more of that, just because that should be a character arc for her. So
but then, like you said, it has to be some kind of character development to go. If I hadn't done that, maybe things would have been better in some way, or maybe that person could have helped me or something. And then you kind of go oh, well, gee, I can't keep reacting this way because not everybody, like you said, not everybody is
Exactly.
that way, or everybody of a certain group is going to be that way.
Exactly.
Because certainly Nick Fury wasn't. It was funny because I kind of felt Nick Fury was more flirtatious with her in some instances.
In some instances.
And I'm just like, wouldn't she have had, take exception to that?
Mm-hmm.
I would have thought. I don't know.
Yeah. What's the difference there? Yeah.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
yeah.
But overall, I'm like, I like I said earlier, I just think that just having her steal the motorcycle and the clothes in general isn't a superhero-ish right thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
So
especially when you address yourself as a hero,
right?
Yeah, you address you and your race as a hero.
And that's,
so
I'm
like,
and she went to the point to mention that. I'm like, wait a minute. Well, if you're stealing stuff and going out of the way to break stuff instead of not, I don't know.
And instead of just saying like we are a warrior race,
right?
Hey,
in that case, fine.
Yeah,
but you start throwing hero into it, and you need to start acting like a hero.
Exactly.
So, but I do agree with some other people online who said, well, her reaction was silly, only in so much as that this guy posed zero threat to her. Period. I mean, she could have just poked him.
Yeah.
And just he'd be like, oh,
flicked him,
and then he'd be like, okay, I better not mess with you, or something. So I don't know. So yeah, definitely, or put more. I agree with you in that regard. Put more. But that's the thing. Even with the latest movies in general, like the Jedi movies or the Star Wars movies, is that give the characters something to overcome,
right,
and have them fail, and then get better, like they have done in other movies in the past, and go, I've tried this, it didn't work, so let's try something else. Oh, this is going to work. Okay, cool. And so have them go, hey, I tried my best. I thought, I did the big thing and it didn't work, and holy crap, I suck. And then have them kind of go, have somebody give them the pep talk and blah, blah, blah. And then go, wait a minute, we have to do this now. Like, okay. And then you do the big thing and it wins the game or whatever, wins the Super Bowl.
Yeah, like I say, give her something to overcome.
Right.
And because that's it. She's a person.
Yeah.
So why not? She's not Terminator. She's not like, that's not her. Like I said, that's why I understand why they took it out. I know that was an homage to that scene, but I'm like,
give me your clothes.
Yeah. Yeah, and like I said, that was part of the Terminator's arc or whatever. Just understand, like, hey, you don't have to be out here killing everybody, whatever, and stuff, and understanding emotion and everything. So and plus, obviously, he invaded her space. Yes, he didn't hit her with a pool stick over the head, or put a cigarette on her chest. Skin. Yeah, so I'm like, okay. We gotta balance it out here a little bit. So we're going to go ahead and finish up this segment, and then we got to give a call to our buddy who will be revealed in the next segment. So we'll see you then. Alright everybody, so we are back with the third segment, and we're going to get into X-Men Dark Phoenix, and we have a special guest with us today, coming all the way from Arkansas through our Skype. He can't see us, but he can hear us at least. But we have Cameron from CBM Reviews on YouTube. How you doing out there, Cameron?
Doing really good, guys. How are you guys doing today?
We're doing all right. We lost a teammate, but
I heard he had to go. Bill had to make his presence known.
Yeah. That married life and everything. He can't hang out with us. I know you're married too, but like he can't hang out with us single folk, too long. Wife start asking questions like, "Where you been?"
Yeah. So you love them more than me, huh?
Yeah, but we're doing all right. So Cameron, what do you do on your channel, man?
Okay, well, my channel, CBM Reviews, as you mentioned before, it's a channel where I talk about comic book movies, some comic book TV shows. I can't watch everything because there's just so much out there now.
Yeah.
But I also go to a few local conventions and film panels that I think people would be interested in. I also have a really close place in my heart for voice actors. It's kind of my dream job, but I'm enjoying doing this now. And so I talk about all those sorts of things, and every now and then, and I'll do top 10 lists, or I'll do little video essays. I've got a couple of top 10 lists coming up here in the next couple of weeks that might be interesting.
Okay, that sounds awesome. I know I've seen some of your lists. I like the what you did for the Oscars. I was like, this man went all out here. He got all dressed up and everything. I thought that was pretty cool.
I'm planning on doing another one next year, and I'm wanting to get some guests. I had local guests on this last one, but I'm planning on getting some other guests. I may see if I can. Get maybe at least one celebrity to, it's like begathons, like please. But we'll see what happens there. I've already gotten some candidates for certain categories, and I've already got one that's really going to be difficult.
I gotcha.
Best line is going to be difficult.
Best line? Oh yeah.
Best line is going to be difficult. I already know.
Okay. All right. Well, we're definitely interested to see that. If you are interested in all of the comic book movie reviews and Comic-Con stuff and everything, you definitely want to go check out his channel. His channel will be in the description down below, both on YouTube and on the website. Where can they? And you have social media, don't you?
I do. I have a Facebook page, CBM Reviews. I also have a Twitter account and an Instagram account. The Instagram is not as comic book related. It's some home stuff, but I try to post some things from CBM Reviews on there. And then I've got a Twitter page where I'll link to some videos. And I try not to do too much on Twitter because sometimes I get political as well.
Be careful.
That's a hotbed for politics. But the Facebook page is strictly CBM Reviews. It's strictly comic book related stuff. It's not controversial there.
It just depends. It really depends. Some comic book stuff can be pretty controversial as well. So, comic books, anything nerd culture can really go that route. I don't know if you've seen our Alita Battle Angel review. People got pretty mad at us and it get pretty heated. So, but it is what it is. But we got a less controversial film, hopefully, to talk about today. We're going to talk about X-Men Dark Phoenix. So we saw this last week, and I know you saw it. You saw it on Thursday, right? If I believe. Did. Okay, and
I did.
Yeah, and he's already got his review out. Like I said, I'd like the link to his channel be in the description down below and everything. And this movie is actually getting slammed by a lot of people. A lot of people are saying, like, this is the worst X-Men movie that has ever come out in the history of X-Men movies. And I just look at them and I was just like, did you see Origins? I mean, are you sure? Are you sure? Did you see The Last Stand? I'm like, I'm pretty sure like there's been worse. I would even say it maybe, I don't know how you feel about this, but I would even say it's probably better than Apocalypse. Even so I would say like if I were to say like of the new films, I would say this is probably third. I would rate it above Apocalypse, but I don't know where that would be in your ranking. Let me ask Hakeem real quick. What would you rank that?
I'll put it above Apocalypse because Apocalypse is fresh in my mind because I rewatched it last week and I was like, yeah, and it just made me more upset about Dark Phoenix because of what it could have been.
I gotcha. What about you, Cameron? Where would you place it?
So I'm a little different. I actually would say that Dark Phoenix is worse than Apocalypse for two main reasons. The first reason is that in X-Men Apocalypse, even though the look of the character and the whole power set is kind of ridiculous, at least the main antagonist is established. We know who he is. We know what he's about, where he's from. We get a backstory. And so at least we know who the antagonist is. And then with the third act, especially the last part of the third act, we get a full-blown, all the X-Men and Magneto up against this character. And even though I dislike the fact that they used Jean as an ex machina, is like, oh, we can't stop him, and then Jean comes and she destroys him. At least we have all of the X-Men engaged against this one force, and that's just something that we don't see both of the things we don't see in Dark Phoenix. We don't have a very well-established main antagonist, and we don't have a final scene where all of the X-Men are engaged.
I can see that. I can definitely understand that. And that's actually two of the points that I was going to bring up. And but I'm going to go through the good real quick. From our standpoints, I think the movie had a lot of good acting moments in there, especially from characters such as from Professor X. What the heck's his name? James McAvoy. From James McAvoy, we had some good acting moments from him, and I was actually really impressed with Nicholas Hoult. I did not expect him to bring it as good as he did, but he brought it pretty good in this film. I was actually pretty surprised by that. I'm not saying like he's not a good actor or anything. I'm just saying like it was just he. In the other movies, are like, okay, he was fine, but here it felt like because of the emotion in the story, he brought it. He brought it just that much more. I don't think you could really go too wrong with Magneto. He's kind of like you're given. That is like, okay, if the movie is going to be anything, like he's going to be good in it. With Michael Fassbender, I thought he was really good, and I would say probably the drama in the film, because, and then maybe like I said, it may just be me, but in the first X-Men films, the original trilogy, I would say probably the first two, and Logan, the drama is really what set these movies apart from any other superhero movie. Like the character moments and just really diving into what makes these characters tick and what sets them off, what are their, their adversity towards each other. And I really appreciated like legit drama. And I think every time, and I'm going to get into this later, I think every time they delve towards going to the superhero route of the movie, that's when it kind of starts to tank a little bit, when they try to be too much of, for lack of a better way to say it, when they try to be too much like the MCU. It's like, no, this is your wheelhouse. This is where you've worked, and this is where things work for you. This is probably where you should stay. Don't go too far out, because then you start messing up and you start shoving too much stuff into these movies and everything. And then we get movies like The Last Stand. We get movies like X-Men Origins, which is just like, oh, we just want to focus on the action and get to point A to point B. I was like, no, focus on the characters. The characters are what really make this story go, what really makes this series tick. And I felt like in this film, they really brought it back to that route that they had in X-Men 1, X-Men 2, and Logan, and just going back into, because there's a split when she becomes Jean Grey becomes the Phoenix, as you would say. There's a split. Like, some people are just like, hey, I don't necessarily agree with this. I don't necessarily I think she needs to be put down. And there's other people that are just like, no, we need to help her in that regard. And you start to see that divide, and you understand the motivations behind everyone. And I think, like I said, because these movies are so character driven, I feel like that's where the movie shines, is when you have this drama and you have these acting moments where they can sit down and have a dialogue and question certain things. And especially with Charles Xavier, because this was something that was realistically set up since First Class, was that he wanted to belong. He wanted to belong so much that he was actually putting the very people that he was trying to protect in danger. When they go out into space, they're just like, well, what the hell? We never gone out into space before, and they have these. Now, granted, I think that's one of the issues with the movie, is like when they do go out in space, but they never really, it was just the fact that he was just like, yeah, go ahead and do it. Go ahead and do it. That's fine. We need to make sure that we're always good in the eye of the public. And it was actually to a detriment, because we see what happened with Jean Grey after that. We see what, happened with Quicksilver. Because he was another victim, and and stuff. Like, we see what happens to people when you are too far on one extreme. I need to belong at all costs, because if I do anything wrong, people are going to hate me. And no, we worked so hard for this and everything. So, what about you, Hakeem? Is that would you agree or disagree that the drama is one of the good parts of the film?
Yeah, the drama was pretty set in the movie. I mean, pretty much everything that you had said about the good parts for it, I'd agree as well. Because I really don't have too much to say about the good parts. It's mostly the latter pieces that I'm more concerned about. Because I really love the X-Men, and it's like, why y'all gonna do me dirty like this?
Yeah, I don't think any of us here dislike the X-Men, and I know Cameron here, like, that's one of his most favorite franchises. Am I wrong?
You are absolutely right. X-Men is I love the X-Men in almost any iteration. I have I watched every single episode of the animated series. I watched all of the episodes of X-Men Evolution, all of Wolverine in the X-Men. Seen every movie several times. I have met some of the creators, some of the big names of creators. I've met Chris Claremont, John Byrne, nice. Jim Lee. Absolutely love. I met Stan Lee a few times too, but I wasn't even thinking about him in that instance. But I absolutely love the X-Men franchise. Partly because I can see myself in some of the, I say ethical, but societal struggles that they have.
Exactly.
And at that point, I'm getting a little bit political, and so I'm going to kind of back up a bit.
No, I mean that's one of the things that makes the X-Men strong, is like that it does address these issues. It just addresses it from a different standpoint. That's one of the things I've always really respected about that particular series, and that's, like I said, was one of the things I really liked about the movie series. Like I said, they've done it in the animated series, comics, and stuff like that. But the movie series, when they do hone in on that, and you start to see how these characters react to certain things and how they want to belong. And that's one of the reasons why I was so upset with X-Men 3 was because the Cure, that whole arc with the Cure was so big. That was a big thing when that happened in the comics. And, just to see that squandered in the movie, just that hurt me, man. Like, that really, Dark Phoenix stuff aside, I was just like, man, this is one of the biggest things right here. Like, this put the X-Men at odds. Like they were legitimately fighting. Like Wolverine and Beast were like about to tear each other apart at one point, because he's like, does it work? You need to get rid of it or whatever. And, Beast is actually considering taking it because, he's been in his blue form. Now, obviously we can't do that with this version because, he can go back and forth at will. But, that was one of the things like that I really, that hurt me in X-Men 3. That was the one thing I was just like, you should not have. I'm like, Dark Phoenix is one thing, but when you mess with the Cure, that was the one thing. That's the one thing that set that movie like to the direct bottom. I know it's not the worst. The X-Men Origins Wolverine is the worst, but that's what set that movie down to the bottom with me. And I guess the last thing that I would say, like, as far as good, I would say fine were the special effects in certain cases. There were, and I wouldn't even say like special effects 100%, because there was just camera work in certain areas that I really thought were like the way the film was shot was done really well, as far as the Dark Phoenix herself. Like when she becomes Dark Phoenix and you see her enshrouded in shadow, like there's CGI there obviously with the crackling on her face and everything, but a lot of that's just her. And that's the difference between her and Famke Janssen's character, where they really honed in on the CGI in X-Men 3. This one was just like, all they did was just use shadows, and it made her a little bit more creepy in that regard. It made her a little bit more like, if I were going in that, if she was like my daughter or something, and I'm just like, what'd I tell you? Didn't I tell you to do the dishes? She gave me that look. I'd be like, next time you just better do that. Just close the door and get the heck out, because like it's a little scary, in that regard. So I really appreciated that. And boy, unfortunately, I do have. Go ahead.
What I was going to say is one thing that, and I completely forgot to talk about it in my review.
What's that?
And I felt bad, and I just remembered it when you were just talking about this Phoenix versus the last Phoenix. Was Sophie Turner's performance, because the way that she acts in this, it is crucial that she brings a believable portrayal to this with ethical issues back and forth. And I mean, there were some things that she had parallels with Femke Janssen, with being on one side and then going to the other side. And if she isn't believable, then the whole opera falls apart.
Right.
And I think that I maybe because it's such a bigger ensemble cast that she's overlooked, but she really did a great job.
Yes.
And that's something that I forgot to actually address, because I was so focused on the fact that we finally got an emotional storyline with Beast out of the last 3 movies. He's just kind of like, he's there,
right?
It's like, okay, in First Class you're there to you can fly a plane, and in this one, you're gonna be the professor's hand servant,
right?
And so with this one, he actually had he's at odds with Xavier. With this one, he joins Magneto, and because he absolutely has completely fallen out of trust with Xavier's motives and what he's going up against. And so because he had such an emotional growth spurt, I was like, oh wow, this is great. I've actually cosplayed as Beast a very long time ago, and so to finally actually see him shine in a movie, I was like, yes, this is what I want. And I completely glossed over the fact that Sophie Turner is amazing and completely believable.
Yes.
In this from both angles. Aside from the screenwriting, which we haven't gotten there yet.
Right.
She did a fantastic job, and because of that, the movie is much better than it very much could have been.
Very true. Very true. Yeah, because
I just wanted to talk about that before we went forward.
Yes, and that's very true. That's very true, because like you said, like she has to anchor this. She has to make this, believable. We have to buy the fact that she's going through these emotions and she's going through these changes that she can't control, and we have to buy the fact that she has a big. She has a problem. She's had issues since she was a kid and everything. But there is something, and like I said, with the screenwriting, we'll definitely get to that. But there was a character that I was actually pretty disappointed in. And that was actually Ty Sheridan as Cyclops. And I felt really bad seeing this, because I felt like this was the movie that Cyclops can start coming into his own as the leader. And there were lines that I felt were given to other people that he should have had, because, when you think Cyclops, you think he's the leader. He is the guy that's going to bring this team. He's going to take over after, because, spoiler alert, Mystique dies in this one, if you couldn't tell by the trailers. Yeah. But, like, I felt like he was reduced to kind of being a love interest and kind of the muscle for Professor X, when he's like, okay, he's the bodyguard at this point, or with dealing with Phoenix, and like he's just the love interest. And I'm like, you can do more with him. And like I said, he was doing the best he could with what he had. But I'm just saying, like, from a character standpoint, like, this should have been his movie to kind of to step up. And like I said, there was moments where I felt like you gave dialogue to other people that he should have, because there was a moment when Xavier's like, oh, Cyclops and I, we're going after Jean Grey, and Storm says like, oh, I'm coming. This is not a discussion or whatever. After Cyclops says, no, I need you. And I was like, I feel like he should have said that. I feel like he should have been the one to say like, I need her. And then when Xavier objects to it, he says, there is no discussion about this. She's coming, and like just really kind of get him to step into that leadership role that he's obviously supposed to be meant for. But I don't know, maybe they're doing something different with this character, but it just feels like Cyclops always kind of gets the short end of the stick in these movies. I don't know how you feel about that. X3, he dies in like the first 5 minutes. X2, X2, he's the muscle, and then he's gone for like most of the movie. And I'm just like, look, I don't like Cyclops more than anyone else. I'm like, give him something. He is supposed to be, front and center, but I guess trying to focus more on Wolverine in the originals and trying to focus more on Xavier and Magneto in these, he just kind of gets sidelined, and I don't know, like, how do you feel about that?
So I agree. What they did with Cyclops in Dark Phoenix is what they've been doing to Beast in all the other movies, like he was, constantly by Xavier's side. It's like wherever Xavier goes, it's like, okay, I'm gonna do what you say. There's a love interest that he has with one of the other mutants. In this case, he has a love interest with Jean. And so a lot of the same parallels that Beast has had in earlier movies, now he has here. Does he get a chance to shine? Not really. The only moment that sticks out in my mind as far as a Cyclops moment was the one line that they were like, oh, I guess since they couldn't get Wolverine in this movie, they had to give it to somebody, so they gave it to Cyclops. And it just doesn't come off as believable. I mean, it's kind of interesting that in the last 4 X-Men movies, in the last 4 X-Men team movies, they were like, we got one F-bomb, let's make it work. And they gave it to
Cyclops. Yeah.
I'm like, that just doesn't seem like a very Cyclops thing to do. Like, Cyclops, in my mind, he's like, he's the altar boy, and not like the one that goes into the back room with the priest. He's like, he actually is the pure altar boy, and so to give him the F-bomb just didn't seem like it was in his character. And yes, I know Cyclops has gone through in the comics, has gone through a huge metamorphosis where he's like, he's evil, or he's not evil now, but he was, and so it's like the whole altar boy doesn't work. But this is a retelling of an X-Men story from the 70s, back when he was still an altar boy.
Right.
And so it just didn't seem like it was to his character, as you said before. And I agree with the lines where, he should have been given a point to where he was stepping up as a leader. And I never saw that in him in any instance at all. I think he was wasted. I think he's been wasted in every single X-Men movie, with the exception of the very first one, because we got to see, the love interest with Jean, but it wasn't laid on too thick. We got to see a little bit of opposition between him and Wolverine, but it wasn't too thick. He's shown as being a leader of the team, as a strategist who is able to take the shot, even if he's not 100% sure.
Right.
And I think that it was the best portrayal with was it James Marsden as Cyclops, and ever since then he's just been kind of like, oh well, we don't have any more time, so we'll just forget him. It's like he's almost completely gone out of X-Men 2. He begged to be killed off in X-Men 3, and then we don't see him again.
Yeah.
Until X-Men Apocalypse. Well, technically we see
X-Men Days of Future Past. Yeah.
Yeah. Wait, he was in Days of Future Past.
Very end when Wolverine's in the school and everyone's like, oh, Jean's alive, and Cyclops is alive, Beast is alive, and everyone's there. All the originals, yeah,
he had those, he had those glasses designed by, I don't know, they're all intricate, and he was ready for the Met Gala in those. But then, we see him again in Apocalypse, but just a younger version.
Right.
And he wasn't bad in that. I actually enjoyed him in that for the amount of time that he was in.
Yeah. But I mean,
it was younger Scott.
Yeah, younger, you rough around the edges and stuff like that. I was like, okay, and I would have enjoyed to see this character grow into this leader that we know that he's going to become. And it's not like, I guess to say, like, it's not I don't think I'm stepping over any lines or anything to say, like, it's pretty household to know that Cyclops is the leader of the X-Men. If you even know of the X-Men, you know that Cyclops is the leader, and like Wolverine is like the he's the one that will do the things that no one else wants to do, or that you don't want to mess with Wolverine, but you don't want to mess with Cyclops either. Like, they have this rivalry. Like, everyone, I don't think it's out of line to say that everyone knows that. It's like the Ninja Turtles. Like, everyone knows that Leonardo's the leader. It's like everyone knows that. That's household. So I would have liked to see him go from that young, brash character, like kid, to grow into this leader and everything. So I mean, especially like if we're going to continue, I don't think we're going to after this movie. I think this was definitely their last one, but if we're going to continue to do these 10-year jumps, which I don't understand, like I was like, okay, from the 60s to the 70s, fine, but when they jumped to the 80s, I was kind of like, I don't know why you're doing that. Now this one was taking place in the 90s, and I'm just like, I still don't know why you're doing it that way, but whatever. But it would have been nice to see the growth of this character. It would have been nice to see, like, okay, yeah, he's this kid, and now he's growing into this mature adult. He may still be a little bit brash and rough around the edges, but still to see that growth of that character. So it was disappointing. It was definitely disappointing, to say the least. I don't know how you felt about some of the dialogue. Some of the dialogue not all of it, but some of the dialogue did come across preachy. I had that same problem with X-Men Apocalypse. Some of it did come across as a bit preachy. Even though, like, some people can sell it, Magneto can sell it, Professor X can sell it, but I did think it was kind of funny that they kind of, in the trailers and in the movie, they kind of knew. They were just kind of like, all right, look, there's always a speech. Nobody cares at this point. I was like, okay, you are understanding, like, okay, it does get preachy at times. But I think acknowledging that it's preachy does not change the fact that it's preachy. It's just kind of like, all right, yeah, but that doesn't change the fact that you're still being a little bit preachy. So I kind of felt that a little bit about some of the dialogue, not all of it, but some of the dialogue just came across as a little bit preachy. There were some, and here's where I'm going to get into the hypocritical stuff or whatever. But you have that moment when they meet in the streets with the X-Men and Xavier's new Brotherhood. They meet in the streets, and Xavier goes on this whole tirade about, like, no, we can't do this. If you fight in the streets, then you're going to, we're going to undo all the work that we've done. And, we're going to be seen as monsters and everything now. And it's just like, okay, I get that. It's like, we don't want to do this. So what do they immediately do? Fight in the streets and get all these people in danger. Cyclops is blasting through cars and everything. And I'm just like, what did he just say? and I'm like, are you not paying? Were none of that? I guess nobody was listening. Nobody did care or something. But I'm just like, you literally did the opposite of what you were talking about not doing. And maybe they needed that for the sake of the scene, because, like I said, I know there were reshoots and stuff that they had to do, and they had to get from a new point B to a point C, but that came across as just dumb in terms of, like, the actions of the characters and everything. It came across as really dumb. Maybe I could see them fighting in the actual mansion that they were in, but fighting in the streets and getting all the people in danger and stuff, it was kind of like, all right, this is... You just literally said, we shouldn't do this, or don't do this, and now we're doing it. And I got to go into Magneto's inconsistent powers, because that was kind of irritating me. We've seen him lift a baseball stadium in Days of Future Past. He lifted a stadium, took it in there, and surrounded the White House with it. So we've seen him do that. We've seen him destroy cities in X-Men Apocalypse. And we've seen him lift, in this movie, he lifts a train out of the ground and everything. That's in the trailer. It's not, we're not spoiling anything per se, but it's like, when it came to actually going up against the big bad, which is another point that we'll get to. But when it came to going up against the big bad, it was like, he got thrown around a little bit and then he was done. And I'm like, wait, what? And then, like, you're on the thing that got me was like, it happened on a train, and the train was just made pretty much all of metal. And I'm like, how is that? You should, I mean, all right, look, if you don't want him to be the person that defeats the big bad, fine. But let him fight. Or I'm like, that should be like your second level boss or something like that. It's just like, all right, he's not the big boss, but he's the second level one. And I'm like, okay, you know, like I can live with that, you know, but just like he just got tossed around at the end, and I'm just like, what is his power at this point? Like, you know, like, because at one point, like when he was actually lifting the train, I thought he was lifting the whole house. I was like, oh, he's gonna lift the whole house and just crush it or whatever. And I was like, okay, yeah, this is what he's gonna do. But that's not at all what happens. And I say, maybe being hypercritical about it, but that was one of the things that really bothered me, was just seeing that. I'm like, he should not go out that quickly, you know. And like I said, maybe that had to do with the reshoots, but it was just like, he definitely shouldn't go out that quickly. I know Hakeem was definitely not happy about that.
No, I was not. Oh man, I like from the trailer, like how he was. I guess it seemed like how he was talking to Gene. Mm-hmm. Like I felt like that, you know, there was gonna be like a real battle going on there. Like it was gonna be like a real fight. Mm-hmm. But you know, nothing really happened. He was just like, you know,
yeah,
like he seemed like he was on the level of Cyclops, like, to be honest. I was like,
you're not wrong. You're not wrong. I don't know.
That's such a low blow, the level of Cyclops. That's like a diss track. It's like the level of Cyclops. Oh. It's like a Yo Mama.
Akeem does a whole back. It's funny because like usually the nicer one of us. Yeah. But yeah, like that I did have a problem with that. And like, I don't know, maybe I'm being too hypercritical and about that. But I feel like if you're going to show that somebody is this powerful, then let them be that powerful. Even if, like I said, he can still lose the fight. But, you know, and like I said, at one point, like he was going kind of toe to toe with Jean when they were fighting over the helicopter type thing. And I'm just like, all right, fine. Like, okay, she has power, and it's like, okay, he's struggling, but he's still able to kind of hold his own with her and everything. I'm like, okay, that's fine, you know. But when it came to fighting the big bad, who didn't have all the Phoenix power within her, it was just like she just took him and just bump. All right, you're out of here. I'm like, really? That's all he gets? You know, I was like. You know, he said Cyclops. I was actually thinking of Shredder from the Ninja Turtles movies, how he always goes out like a chump. And I'm just like, you know, you got all this power and everything gets crushed by a building. I'm like, is that it? And, you know, then like in the new Ninja Turtles movie or whatever, he's like, he's there. You know, he goes up against Krang and he just gets thrown. He gets frozen and thrown into it like a cell. I'm like, we just never gonna get that man any justice, are we? Like he's always gonna go out like a chump. So like I was a little bit upset with how Magneto went out like a chump, but I was just kind of like, all right, yeah. And I think that kind of goes to your point with you know, not having the X-Men fight together, you know, in that regard. But you said something about that in your review. You said like there was a part in the film in the third act. You were just like, these don't feel like my X-Men. They just don't feel like my X-Men. What did you mean by that?
So, and this kind of is a little spoilery, but
okay.
At the very end, after the train sequence,
mm-hmm.
you know, they're amongst the wreckage,
mm-hmm.
and here comes Jessica Chastain's character,
mm-hmm.
and you know, she's there, and all the X-Men are there. Everybody survives the train wreck because, of course, nobody's going to die. This is a superhero movie. And it's Jessica and Sophie or Jean and whatever her name. Her name was Vox, by the way, or Vux, V-U-X.
Uh-huh.
I was gonna make a bad joke in my review, but I was like, I'm not gonna even. play it that far. So it's Bucks and it's Jean, and you know they're kind of having their energy CGI battle, and all of the X-Men are standing around in a circle watching it. They are not engaging in the fight whatsoever. They're just spectators. And at no point in the X-Men history have they ever just been sidelined or spectators to an event that can have such an immense catastrophic effect on, you know, either their lives or the lives of the entire world. And in the previous movie, X-Men Apocalypse, there's this catastrophic event, and the X-Men go forward and are proactive in trying to stop this threat. And the same thing with Days of Future Past, and the same thing with First Class, and all of the X-Men, even when you're dealing with the cartoons or the comic books, they don't just stand by and let things happen. If it's going to affect them or the entire world, they get engaged, they get involved, they do something, and they're just standing there watching this happen. The only other time that this kind of lack of engagement happened that I can think of was during the Onslaught series, the very last comic book, where the Avengers had to fight Onslaught, but the X-Men couldn't do anything at that point, because if they touched him, then because they had a mutant gene, they would get absorbed with the Onslaught energy, and it would be like starting all over again. So they had to wait until a certain point, and then they could attack. But at least they had to wait for the signal, and then they attacked. In this one, they were done. They were like, okay, the train's wrecked. Where's our check? Come on. Make it out to James McAvoy. There we go. Thank you, Mr. Kinberg. So it didn't feel like my X-Men because they weren't engaged. They didn't do anything after that train fight. And even, Cyclops was like, no, it's like because of the energy that they were putting out, he was starting to disintegrate. And, he's like, no, we can't do that. But even then, can't you back up? Maybe zap somebody.
Exactly.
Do something. Don't just stand there. It's like, oh, no, stop, please. That's what I was like. He said he made him seem like Cyclops. I was like, God.
So I think what it is now is like, Magneto is where Cyclops should have been or something like that. But no, I completely understand that, because now I think about that and I'm just like, that's the way you described it was, perfect description, but it also kind of reminded me of Dragon Ball Z, where I'm just like, these guys are just, they're just outclassed at this point. There's nothing they can do or anything. But I'm just like, even in like the most, trying moments of Dragon Ball Z, where they're just like, all right, I don't think I can do anything. Hey man, screw it. Let's go out there and just try something. Yeah. Just throw something at it. They got to a point where it was just kind of like, I might not be able to do anything, but I don't know until I try, and like you said, like, back up, shoot your laser beams from afar or whatever, Magneto throws stuff at her, So I'm like, I definitely get that. I understand that now. I definitely, because I was curious, I thought that's what you might have meant, but I was like, let me ask him. I wanted to verify that. But that's a very good point. That is a very good point. And I don't know if that had anything to do with the reshoots necessarily, because I know that the reshoots involved, like, apparently the original scene was like very similar to how Captain Marvel was at the end, where I guess they were fighting in space and everything like that. So I'm like, even then, I still think like maybe like there was some more involvement there. Maybe they were fighting from the ship, from the X ship or whatever, like Nightcrawler, going in one ship and out into the other and fighting and stuff like that. But I don't know. Like, I think that's an extremely good point. That's a very, very, very good point. It wasn't very X-Men like. Even if like they were trying to go for this whole superhero thing, like it just still wasn't very X-Men like. And that's going to bring me to something we've danced around a little bit here, but it's one of the bigger points or bigger, problems with the film that I feel like this is where the film derails. Like, okay, you could be, I can be hypercritical about certain things and stuff like that. I was like, oh, this character's a little weak and stuff like that. But you have the main villain who, let's truly be honest with ourselves. Like, the main villain, they're the Skrulls. if we're being perfectly honest with ourselves, those are the main villains. That's who they were actually probably supposed to be. I'll probably have to do some homework on that later, but they were probably supposed to be the Skrulls. But they're nothing. They are just literally an opposing force. They don't have any emotion, so it doesn't really, it's hard to kind of relate to them and resonate with them on any kind of level or anything like that. So it's like they're just literally like little like robots. If you really think about it, they're just there. They don't really impact the story all that much, other than give the X-Men something to fight. Because just looking at this film and seeing like what was going on with the Dark Phoenix and with the the solar flare that hit her, like, because solar flare could have still hit her and that would have been fine, or she could have just Hakeem and I had a discussion about this, like they could have just over these 10 years that have passed, you could have just said like, yeah, her powers just got too out of control, like she overexerted herself. Would that have been repeating X2? Probably, but I don't think you could fault it in the terms of the movie or whatever, but fine. She gets hit with a solar flare, the energy goes inside her, she loses her control, fine. But when you introduced these, shape-shifting aliens, what did they really do other than like, they infiltrated certain areas, but they didn't do a whole lot. It was just like they were just literally just there. There's moments where like, you have the group of them there, they're just standing there. Where are their spaceships? Are their spaceships going to come down and start fighting or whatever? What really drives this villain? And like I said, to your point with what you said about X-Men Apocalypse, was like, there was a backstory with him, like you understood what his motivations were and everything, regardless of how he looked and, the execution of the character or whatever. It's like, well, you still understood it. There's nothing to understand here. And I think that just drug this movie down so much, because every time they cut to them or, something to do with them, it was just kind of like the movie just screeched to a halt every time. And I was like, why are you here? And like, what are you really doing here in this? How are you impacting this story at all? Because I just felt like they weren't. They wasted time. And honestly, it just felt like they did it because they wanted this to be a superhero movie. So we got to have the big fight at the end and everything. I was like, well, you don't always need that. And that's the same things I say with a lot of the DC movies. Wonder Woman was especially bad for that. Wonder Woman and Batman v Superman was like, you didn't need this big fight at the end. Like, this is not what the movie was building to. You didn't need that big fight. You didn't need the Doomsday fight in Batman v Superman. I was like, no, that's not what the movie was building to. Focus on this. And I think if the movie just focused on Dark Phoenix and left it at that would have been great, because then you have to deal with the fact that maybe you do have to kill her or whatever, and then you still have that little ending in the end where you see the Phoenix Force flying through the air or whatever. She might still be alive. That's fine, but like I said, it's a superhero movie. No one ever dies, so then that's fine. But it just like these villains, I feel like this is the main thing, and because there was a lot of screen time dedicated to it, this derailed the film. This really derailed the film, and it's the most disappointing thing for me. And it was just kind of like, oh man, you were going so well, you were doing so good, and then they pop up, and it's like, why? Why did you do this? Well, what happened? Why did you feel like you needed to have this in here? And I was hoping, I was like, I had my fingers crossed. I was just, I was so hoping, I'm like, please let these be the reshoots. Please let this be the reshoots. Please because they didn't have a lot of screen time with the main cast and actors. So I was like, please let this be the reshoots. Let this be that. No, that they were a part of the original story as well. So I'm like, gosh dang it. Like, so I don't know. And I think you as well, Cameron, you had a point as to, I think you said the same thing in your review. Like, the villain just, he wasn't there, or they weren't there rather.
They were never defined.
Yeah.
They, like, okay, if you're going to have an alien race that is amongst your main characters, especially when you're dealing with lore like Marvel, where you have so many different defined alien races, and you never take a moment to define who you're up against. Did you stop and think, hey, this could be something important that we do? Because you said that they were basically Skrulls. They did. They had a lot of the same characteristics. Some of the similar looks, definitely had this, similar power sets as Skrulls. But when you're dealing with the Dark Phoenix story, especially in my memory, when you're in the animated series, it was the Shi'ar that had a lot to do with the Phoenix, and they never mentioned any of that. They never even discussed where did they come from. Why do they have such a desire to get the Phoenix Force? How is she important to what's going on? Nothing, absolutely nothing was defined, discussed. And I said in my review that if they would have taken like 10 minutes to kind of give a backstory so that we know who they are, what their whole deal is, what was up with their home world, why they have such a hard on for the Phoenix Force, none of that. They are, it was the worst case of definition of a bad guy in the longest. And I mean, the thing is, you could even say that they didn't do anything different from, say, Independence Day, where the aliens technically weren't defined in Independence Day.
Right.
But at least you get to a point to where, their motives, this is what their motives are. This is what they're going to do. And at least what they're going to do is defined. In here, they're going to get the Phoenix Force for why? Why did they need it? I still, to this day, don't understand anything in dealing with those aliens. The only thing I know is that Jessica Chastain was Vux. That's what I know.
That's it. I mean, that's the gist of it, and that's the thing that's so disappointing in a time where we have we got villains like Thanos, in a time where we have villains like that, to go that far backwards and backpedal that much is like, I hate to say, if this came out 10 years ago, 20 years ago or something like that, it was just like, oh, well, it's a comic movie. This would have been more. So I was like, I don't think so, because if you're going to have a villain, like you said, if you're going to have a villain, at least define them. Who are they? Why are they here? What do they really want? And everything like that. Just give us something. Give us something to grasp onto, and give us some reason to be afraid of them. A reason to be afraid that they would get the Phoenix Force, because at no point did I ever feel like they get the Phoenix Force, I'm just like, oh, the whole world is fricked, and it's just like, even though Xavier kind of figures it out, like he's just like, oh, the whole world's like, you mean to destroy the world? But it's like, but why? Why do you want to destroy the world or whatever? And I'm like, even though you have it, you don't really make a whole, like, even when she has half of it, like, you don't make a whole big deal of having even just half the Force. You're just like, all right, there was a moment where she could have gotten the rest of it, like all the X-Men are knocked out at this point. And I'm like, you could have just went down there and got it. You're stronger than everyone there at the point. Everyone's got their collars on and everything. I'm like, you're stronger than everyone else here, but you don't seem to be that concerned about it at this point. So I'm like, I don't get it. I don't get them, and they don't give you anything to really get. And that was one of the things, like I said, that just derailed this whole movie for me. And I'm just like, oh, you had something so good so good. You had something so good right here. You know, even with like the flaws with certain characters and everything, you know, even with the inconsistencies of Cyclops. So you got me called. Yes. But even with like the inconsistency with Magneto's powers, like all that aside, it's like you still had something at its core that was really like you could have really done something with this. And you just didn't. You decided to go this route for whatever reason. And like I said, for me, like just analyzing it, I'm like, this looks like they were just trying to make it a superhero film. And I'm like, or they were trying to, you know, because we got to have this big climactic battle at the end or whatever. And I'm like, well, why not have that with the Phoenix Force? You know, why not have that with her and you know, bring that you know, that ethicalness back to it. It's just like, how do we stop her without killing her or whatever? Because like she's completely losing herself, and over time, you know, she just maybe just snaps altogether, and you know, she goes full on, you know, disintegrating people and stuff like that in her near vicinity, kind of like, you know, I don't know. It's probably like maybe they just didn't want to repeat X-Men 3 or something like that. That may be the case. But I don't know. I just like, I don't think like the aliens just really belonged in there. I think you really could just take them out, and I think that would improve the movie vastly.
You take them out. Yeah, take them out, and it goes from you know, fighting this, you know, outside, you know, scourge to an internal struggle. It becomes something that the X-Men was built on. It's like, yes, there's mutants versus mutants. It's like this mutant has all this power and is uncontrollable. We need to do something about it. And then it becomes that ethical dilemma. Well, you know, we're not supposed to be, you know, killing our brothers and sisters. We need to be, you know, trying to help them control this power. It's like, no, they're too dangerous for even us to control, Charles. We need to do what's best for not just mutant kind, but even for humankind. It's like, I may not be the best, you know, biggest fan of humans, but in order for this whole opera to work, we need all of us together. We may not love each other, but, you know, we can still be beneficial to each other. And you're trying to say, oh, this one person is too, you know, whatever to kill, and she could kill us all.
Right. Exactly.
That's a much better ethical foundation than, oh, these aliens want this power. We gotta do something about it.
It's really like it's like somebody came in, they were just like somebody wrote this script or whatever, and they were just like, well, where's the big CGI fight though? Where are all the faceless villains? It's like, well, you don't need them, whatever. It's like, no, we're Marvel. We gotta have like the faceless, you know, multiple villains, you know, whatever, like alien villains. I'm like, well, we don't always have to have that, you know. It's almost like they didn't learn from the success of Logan. I would say that it's almost like they just didn't learn from that success. You know, like the MCU, when they do these, they have these big, you know, CGI battles at the end and everything like that. It's like when they have these, there's always a build to it, and you know, the villains may be underdeveloped, but you still know who they are, you know what they want to do, you know, and you still have, like, there's a build to it. There was really no build to that, to what they were going through on the, you know, the whole train sequence or whatever. There was really nothing that really built to that. Everything from the start of the film was really building towards a, you know, something, there was something that was going to happen with Jean Grey. You know, she was the center of the movie, and she should have remained the center of the movie, the core of the movie. This is what this is about. It's the title of the movie. Focus on that. So, but that's, unfortunately, you know, we got what we got. There's not a whole lot we can sit here and complain about it all day. I mean, it's just disappointing, because I was really hoping, because this movie was getting slammed before it even came out. I was really hoping. I was like, man, just please be good. Please be good. Please be good. Shut everybody up. Be good. Please be good. But that's we didn't get a terrible film. It's not getting, I mean, I know it's getting slammed, but it's like, it's not terrible. It's not the worst X-Men film that's ever come out. It's just not. And I'm not going to argue that it's not a masterpiece. Definitely not. I would probably say it's probably right down the middle. I would more lean towards it being more of a bad film than a middle of the road film. But I mean, like you say, it's just barely good. I'm like, it's bad, but just barely. It's not like I can still watch this, but I'll still be like disappointed in what they did with it and everything like that. So like it's like I think if you gave it a 61, I would probably I'd be like it's a 59. You know, I'd be like right on the other fence or on the other side of the fence of it. But I can't see this being like an absolute travesty or whatever. And like you said, a lot of it probably has to do with the MCU. I never thought that X-Men Apocalypse was a terrible film, but that got slammed. But, I guess maybe it's just timing. It comes out after, this came out after Endgame. X-Men Apocalypse came out after Captain America Civil War. So, and those were two very, very highly regarded films in the MCU. So it's like, they went from this to this, and people said oh, well, this is the worst movie ever. And I'm like, well, no, it's not great, but it's not the worst. We have seen worse. Trust me. Trust me, we have seen worse.
And I got something to say about that too, real quick. Because I know everybody, I guess once it came out, everybody was joking on how, Apocalypse looked, calling him, Ivan Ooze type of deal. To be perfectly honest, I'm like, even when I saw, the Power Rangers movie, when I saw Ivan Ooze, I was scared of him. I'm like, I was scared of Ivan Ooze. So seeing Apocalypse like that, I was like, if I saw him like real life, I'm like, I don't know what the heck you are or who you are. I don't want to mess with you. You look scary.
I go the other way.
Yeah. So making that a whole joke, I'm like, it looked fine to me. I'm like, I don't know what the whole fuss was about that. Even the actor, he was like, it was excruciating to be put in all that makeup. He had to have so much stuff on, a lot of latex, and even a cooling system, inside the suit that he had, so he won't, burn or pass out after death.
Right.
But that side of it, I can see it. But calling him the Ivan Ooze and saying Ivan Ooze is I don't know, not as scary. I mean, now he isn't because it was 90s and you look back on it, it looks kind of silly. But back then, I was like, Ivan Ooze is a scary dude. Apocalypse now, that's a scary dude. But I guess it was more people expectation of him. They wanted him to be a bigger person, like a Galactus or something, and they got this. I'm like, you could still have a small, villainous person Reverse Flash. He's a skinny dude, but you wouldn't want to mess with him because you know what he can do.
Right. And this was my take on it when seeing Apocalypse in the film was does he look like Ivan Ooze? I said, yeah, he does, but I didn't necessarily have a problem with that. My biggest problem with Apocalypse, in terms of feel, I wanted to be a bit intimidated by him, and there were certain scenes where that did intimidate me, but it was something about seeing the rest of the his horsemen around him and everything, and him being the shortest one. There was something about that just kind of threw me off a little bit, and I was kind of he could be taller, or they could shoot it in a way that made him seem more imposing or whatever, because something about him being tiny, and maybe like I said, maybe it's the comic brain in me or whatever. It's he's supposed to be bigger and more imposing on people. It was something about that where I was just kind of for whatever reason, it wasn't his voice. It was just he just doesn't scare me as much. And when he came out and he was around Storm, I was a bit intimidated by him because I think that was probably the only person he was taller than at the time. But there was a mystery about him, and there was something about him that was a little bit just unnerving. But over time, and it may have to do with the dialogue as well. But over time, it was just like, so it was the dialogue combined with the fact that, you know, he's not a big dude. He's smaller than most of the people that he was around. It just didn't have, I didn't have that feel, you know. There was just something about that, and that was my thing with it. It was like, you know, the dialogue combined with his stature just didn't it didn't do it. It didn't do it for me, you know. That's my that'd be my problem with it. What about you, like Cameron? What did you think of Apocalypse?
So I enjoyed Apocalypse more than most people.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't watch the Power Rangers movie, so I was like,
Don't.
I was like, you know, and he didn't look. I agree. You know, he wasn't as imposing as the Apocalypse that you think of, like when you think of the animated series or the cartoon. He wasn't as imposing as he was there.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was more like in basketball, like they were trying to shoot this 3-pointer, because if you look at all the other X-Men villains in the movies, they didn't have to be as ambitious. Like Magneto, he's a guy. You know, Stryker, he's a guy. Phoenix, she's a girl. And you've got First Class, you've got Sebastian Shaw, he's a guy. The Sentinels, now they're robots, so that's, you know, all CG. But then you're dealing with Apocalypse, and you're going to have to deal with either a bunch of CG or a bunch of makeup or both. And I think that was such an ambitious thing. So they were going for this 3-point shot, going back to the basketball analogy. They didn't sink it. They bricked it. So it's like they got close.
Yeah.
But, you know, it wasn't an air ball like a lot of people were saying.
Right.
I think that there were times where he looked intimidating, but there are also things where, you know, when he's picking his horsemen, I'm like, you're picking Angel, which I understand they picked him for the comic book reference, but he's like, you're looking for the most powerful mutants, and you go with Angel and Psylocke. And I mean, it's like, I could think of 5 mutants that are much better suited for this job than Angel and Psylocke. Like Storm, I'm like, okay, I got you. She can control weather. Cataclysmic. Magneto, amazing. I love it.
Right.
And, you know, have a Wolverine cameo, and just like Apocalypse does go, that's the guy. He's a killer. I want the killer on my team.
Right.
No, we're gonna pick the drunken winged guy, and he's crippled too. Oh, I'll fix that. But yeah, that's the guy I want. He can fly. I want that kind of power. That'll get him.
Yeah,
but
it was. I definitely get that. And the other thing was, I was actually hoping, and like I said, I didn't hold it against the movie, but I was kind of hoping that Xavier would become one of them, because like there was that part in the trailer where, you know, he gets sucked away by Apocalypse, and they go away in the portal and everything. I was like, oh, is he going to be one of the Horsemen? Because like, okay, you got them, and I'm just like, Psylocke, I'm like, all right, whatever. But I was like, if you have all of them and Magneto Magneto, you have Professor Xavier, who's got his mental powers or whatever, and it's like, imagine if you give him that, you give him the power boost, and then, you know, you give him the ability to, like, you know, say like in like what happened in X-Men Evolution, where it's like he's actually able to walk, and he can, you know, he can be agile, and he actually can fight and stuff like that. I'm like, that I was like, there's your Horsemen right there. There are your most powerful mutants. Yeah.
You pick those guys. It's like, who should be my Horseman? Xavier has a great power set. I'll pick him. Yeah, like you said, it was the very end of X-Men Evolution. It was like Magneto and Xavier and Mystique and who was
Angel?
I'm trying to remember who
I think it was Angel.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
But still, that made sense in that context. I think the Horseman that he picked in the movie, it was just like, it reminded me of that Dave Chappelle stand-up skit where he was talking about, you know, Bill Clinton picking Monica Lewinsky. He's like, he's a busy man. He was just looking to see who was there. It's like, you get over here. You know, be a horse. You know, it just seemed like that. It's It's like he just showed up. He's like, I'm a busy guy. I don't really have time to, go through this interview session. So he's like, you're in. You're in. You actually have good powers. Come on.
Yeah.
It was real quick.
Yeah. I can definitely agree with that. I definitely agree with that. I like the Dave Chappelle reference. But I'm disappointed, but I'm not heartbroken. I don't think there's anything. I think talked about this in one of our last videos, whatever. I don't think there's anything that's going to break my heart more than X-Men 3 did. So, and I still, as I said, for those of you out there watching, this is not the worst X-Men film. It just isn't. Either from like if you dislike this as the worst X-Men movie, I don't think I can argue with that, obviously, because that's how you feel. But like just from an objective standpoint, I'm just like, there's no way. There is no way. I don't understand the hate. I understand like the criticisms behind it, obviously, because we all have our own points that we've addressed today and everything like that. But this one was just it didn't go out with a bang, I wouldn't say it went out with a fart noise or anything, but it didn't it didn't live up to what it could have been. And I think that's one of the bigger issues, one of the biggest things that probably hurts it a little more, because I'm like, man, it could have been so great. You could have been like going out on top or whatever. Like you could have had a movie that probably could have rivaled Logan in terms of how good it was, but we got what we got. It just is what it is.
I would like to ask
yes.
you guys, could this movie, well, how could I phrase it? Can you do a grounded Dark Phoenix movie? When I say grounded, I mean, kept it on Earth. No intergalactical, beings to fight with, to deal with, or anything like that. Can a Dark Phoenix movie be grounded and still be a good Dark Phoenix movie?
Oh yeah.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, I definitely.
I think the setup has to be right. I think you have to establish that your Dark Phoenix already had these powers, and that everybody, like up to the point to where she finally flips, has been somewhat tiptoeing around her. So I think it's definitely possible, but you have to make sure that you make a compelling story. You have to make sure that it's character driven and it's not just a CGI, throw it on the screen fest. I think that you have to have the proper acting in order to make it believable that everybody is, kind of like slightly sweating bullets when they're around her, even before she flips. And then when she flips, they need buckets for the amount of sweat that they're dropping. And you can completely take out the whole, Space Phoenix Force. You can take out Shi'ar. You can take out the unnamed aliens of whoever they are. You don't even have to have Magneto in this, to be completely honest.
That's
you
true.
can just have it be. You could have it be completely self-contained within the X-Men clique, and it can work. But you just have to make sure that whatever's happening before this makes sense, and you don't make it to where she's the Ex Machina, and you have to treat it right. You can't just do things at the spur of the moment because it will look good or it will seem good for the time being. You have to make it make sense, and that was one of the biggest flaws of Dark Phoenix, is that when they were doing things, they just didn't make sense, whether it was because of a lack of explanation of who these people were, or it was a lack of looking back to see what we had before, because something that a lot of people have said, it was like, why did we have to see her get bombarded with this energy when we practically saw she had the Phoenix Force at the end of X-Men Apocalypse? She touched that tool practically by herself.
Right.
So what was the whole point of showing her get, absorbing all this energy at the beginning of the next movie when she practically had it beforehand?
Right.
It was essentially the same thing as X2 and The Last Stand. Like at the end of X2, she held up a freaking lake by herself. Mm-hmm. No alien anything was necessary. Mm-hmm. And then at the beginning of X3, you know, she's back, and there was no alien anything that was necessary. It was a problem with the screenwriters and the director. Oddly enough, Sam Kinison, who wrote and directed Dark Phoenix, was a writer to The Last Stand. Right. Why they didn't get somebody fresh is beyond me. But Ratner also was a horrible choice for The Last Stand. The only thing that The Last Stand had going for it was that some of the action sequences were really good. But as far as character development, as far as staying true to the source material, and as far as the fact that you have two movies in one, and they don't connect very well at all. Those were the huge things that were going wrong for The Last Stand. And I hate that that they didn't really fix enough of those problems for this one. It's not, in my opinion, it's not as bad as The Last Stand, but the fatal flaws that were in The Last Stand were either glossed over or completely omitted for the Dark Phoenix, but they didn't fix the core thing, which was this is a character story, and you can see glimpses of character story in the first half, but then here's Jessica Chastain, character stories out the window.
Yep.
Gone.
Exactly.
Gone.
Exactly. Yeah, and I don't have anything to really add to that. That's perfect. What you just said there, because like it has to be a character driven story, and I even like the idea of leaving out Magneto. Like, you don't need him. Let's have it be just with the X-Men. Let that be, because once she starts flipping, like you see what happened with Mystique and everything. It was like, okay, when she starts flipping, like, all right, you have a divide within the X-Men. You don't need any outside force to come in and be in opposition. I was like, no, you already have opposition within the X-Men themselves. So you can just rely on that, that on its own.
Yeah. The reason why I asked was because I had read an article that was about the reason why Dark Phoenix bombed was because of Alita. I get in that another time, but I was looking at the comments, and a lot of them were saying that you can't have you can't do Dark Phoenix, grounded. Like it has to have those outside elements. And I was thinking, no, it doesn't. Like no, yeah, you can have a perfectly good grounded Dark Phoenix movie, and it'd be good. And that's what I felt that this movie was trying to do, but they was distracting you with the aliens. I'm like,
yeah.
Why?
Yeah, and to just going off of to address those comments that people left in there, like, were leaving, is like people were also saying like Thanos, like, well, you can only do so much with Thanos. Like, Thanos is just a big galactic villain. He just he's no better than Apocalypse at this point, or Steppenwolf in Justice League or whatever. He's just like big speech spewing bad guy. Big physical opposing force, and look what we got. Look what we got. So I'm like, all right, so you went from this guy who just wanted to, as I so eloquently put it, he was a galactic force that just wants to get into Lady Death's granny panties. Yeah. He goes from that, and they took him and they said, like, nah, we can actually do something. Let's make him this sacrificial, like, serial killer in a sense. And I'm just like, that's actually, that one, that's really dark. But two, I'm just like, you didn't have to do that, but you did. You could have just made Thanos this, one-dimensional villain, but they didn't. They gave him something. They gave him some layers to him or whatever. So I'm like, hey, look, if you can ground somebody like Thanos, and make him, seem almost human, almost dangerously human to a degree. And I'm just like, if you can ground somebody like him, you can do anything with these movies. You know, you could do anything with your script or anything. It's like Cameron said, it just all comes down to the writing at one point. It's like you got to get the right people together to put it together, and people that genuinely love the source material as well. Because if they don't care about it, that's another thing that could really hurt it. And that was, unfortunately, I would have this, on this, side with Cameron here, it's just like Brett Ratner didn't give a crap about the X-Men. He was there for a paycheck, and he was there to, be what Fox wanted him to be. He was just like, hey, what do you want in this movie? You want this in the movie? All right, I'll put that in the movie. You want this in the movie? We'll put that in the movie. Hey, we'll put it all together. And like, all right, make the check out to Brett Ratner, and I'm just going to go sit and, drink some beers or whatever. I'm out. Like he didn't care. Just like you think he cared like how many people really hated this movie. When it was like, no, he's there to get paid. And he was a director for hire, unfortunately. And it's almost unfortunate for him in that regard because he was brought in after they'd already started shooting. They started shooting, I don't know if you're familiar with this, Cameron, but they actually started shooting X-Men 3 without a script. They were already shooting like stuff and putting stuff together like without a script and without a director because what's his name? Bryan Singer had left. He went to go direct Superman. So, like, I don't know if you were actually familiar with that story or not, but that is a good bit. And it was so funny because, like, I see this now. I'm like, I should have saw all the signs. All the signs were right there. I knew that they didn't have a script when they were shooting before I saw the movie. I knew Brett Ratner came in after they started shooting. I'm like, I knew this. And for some reason, I was just like, no, it'll be fine. It's still going to be good. There's nothing going to be wrong. No, it's going to be good. It's going to be fine. I was in complete denial. And I think so I'm probably more mad at myself for letting myself not. I was like, did you actually know about that, Cameron?
I didn't know that they had started shooting without a script. But, I mean, you can kind of see it where there were moments where it just seemed to lack direction. There wasn't really any kind of motivating factors to certain scenes. And there were characters that just seemed to be there, and they didn't really affect the plot in any way at all. Like, even with emotional gravitas, like, you could see that they were trying, but they didn't make it. Yeah, I could definitely see that. And there's only one movie that I can think where they were just kind of like going through the script as they were shooting or, going through, massive rewrites, but it worked out. And that was the very first Iron Man. But I think that was more of a gamble. And there wasn't anything established before that. That was like numero uno in the cog. But you have somebody who cared deeply about the source material with Jon Favreau. And then you've got Robert Downey Jr., who this was his comeback. Like he knew that if he nailed this, the sky's the limit. And who would have thought that it would have been as huge as it was?
Yeah.
So even though that one kind of went through something similar, the amount of care that went into both are completely different.
Yes.
With X-Men: The Last Stand, Ratner was a wrong choice for that. I think they would have been much better off if they had gotten somebody like, and not even somebody who had directed any comic book movies, but just a good director that actually cared for character development. Somebody like Kenneth Branagh, not in my opinion, not the best director, but somebody who cares about character development, somebody who cares about, which every scene means something. And that would have been a whole lot better off than somebody like Ratner, who's like looking for, sometimes shock value, or he's looking for maybe, a controversial scene, not looking to give the fans what they want out of the character, but just look, he killed Professor Xavier.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
And not even in a way that made me go, oh, wow, that was a good scene. It was more like, what the crap was that? Like, Xavier dies, and then Magneto gets up, come with me, Jean. I'm like, he was your best friend.
Right?
You are a bad friend, Eric. Like, it was just bad writing and bad directing, and that movie, that is probably the best example of why that movie is not as good as Dark Phoenix was. At least with Dark Phoenix, a character dies and they make a big deal about it.
Yes.
Like, everybody makes a big deal about it, except for maybe Xavier was like, I met Raven in this room right here. I was like, you'll never have to go hug her again. And Beast is like, you're a bad person, Xavier. And he leaves. He goes to Magneto, and Magneto's like, you're right. He is a bad person. But I mean, yeah, at least with that, the character, her death meant something to the characters. Xavier died. Wolverine and Storm, they come into the room and they cry, and there's like a little memorial. And was he ever even mentioned again?
Nope. Not until the very, very end, that last after credit scene.
Yeah, that was it.
Yeah.
Like, that's how you know he didn't give a flip about the actual characters and what they meant to people. Bad choice. He was a bad choice.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not gonna rant on X-Men 3 too long because I'll get emotional, man. I was like, funny story about that, and it's both funny and sad, but I can talk about it now kind of in jest. But I remember you were telling me about a particular movie that you went to go see. Is it? You said you went to go see it with a girl. I can't remember which. Was it Hulk? The first Ugly Hulk?
Yeah.
I went to go see X3 with my ex-girlfriend who actually became an ex-fiance, but still it was like, if you really think about it, it was just like, wow, that was the first time that we ever met. That was the first time we ever got together. And I'm like, well, that just set the whole tone right there. This was doomed from the start. I was like, well, this is how this is going to start out. This is our first date or whatever. But, now granted, like we're cool now. We're friends now and everything. But still, like we kind of joke about that. And I feel like it's okay for me to kind of joke about it out in public and everything. But it's like we kind of joke about that, like, because we both left that theater pissed. We were so mad after we left the theater. And we were just kind of like, and it was funny. It was like, I forget what show it was or whatever, but he was just kind of like, okay, let's just have a do-over. Let's pretend this first date never happened. Let's just have a do-over. So, yeah.
I want to say it was The Flash, the last season of Flash with Cisco.
Yeah, I think so. So, yeah. I think that's all we got about the Dark Phoenix movie. Unless you have anything else to add. Cameron, you got anything else to add?
I think one last thing that I would add is another flaw, and it's something that I didn't touch on, and it's kind of like something intangible, is that in order for these characters to actually mean something, it has to have some sort of emotional weight, and I felt like this didn't carry anywhere near as much emotional weight as it should have been. The death of Mystique, whenever she died, I didn't feel anything. Like, I was just like, okay. I mean, I saw it coming, but even if I see something coming, it should still impact me, and it didn't. And then towards the end, where they're all standing in a circle looking at stuff, and I didn't have any kind of emotional feeling one way or another. And
right.
I hate that that's how this 19-year progression of the X-Men ends. But, not in a bang, but with a whimper. I wish that it would have had a little bit more weight to it. I'm glad to see that there were some characters that I got something out of, like I said, Beast. We finally got a proper Beast story, but other than that, the only emotional thing that I got out of it, and it was unintentional, and it was when Jean and Magneto were fighting over the helicopter, and Magneto's struggling, and he yells at the army guys, "Get to the chopper," and I immediately thought of Arnold Schwarzenegger's Predator line, because he said it in a very similar fashion.
Yeah.
If you ever go back, like it comes on cable or something like that, and you just got it on in the background, it gets to that scene, you can just see him straining, "Get to the chopper right now," and I'm just like, oh my god, I laughed out loud, and it was the only time that I had any kind of audible response during that entire movie.
I actually didn't catch that. That's so funny. I didn't catch that.
Yeah, I did.
That's really funny.
It's going to be one of my best lines, I think. Unintentionally so. But.
Well, to just kind of piggybacking off of that, the emotion thing and like whether you see something coming or not. This is not the first time like the X-Men showed that someone was going to die in the trailer, because Mystique, you obviously, if you watch the trailer, you're going to know, and it's like, okay. But the same thing happened with Professor X and Logan. It's like, yeah, you know that who they're digging that grave for, you know who that's for and everything. So it's like you can put two and two together very easily. But that scene still got me more than actual Logan's death did. Like it was just in how the characters sold it. There was the acting, it was the way it was shot and everything, and a lot of credit has to go to obviously to Patrick Stewart, but also to Hugh Jackman and how he sold that, because like he, every time like there was a death around Logan or Wolverine, every time there was a death, like he would just go in full rage mode. He'd yell like, whatever, or he'd start, bawling, crying or something like that. He couldn't do anything. Like he couldn't bring himself to talk. He couldn't bring himself to yell or anything. And it was just, because I don't know. It was just something about the moment that him thinking that Charles he thinks that Charles thinks that he killed him, with reason, but still like he thinks like that's the last moment of his life is his caretaker, his best friend killing him, his father, his son figure or whatever, killing him or whatever. And, just, he wanted to say something and he couldn't. And the way that, like I said, the way it was shot, the way it was executed it, like I still like watch that scene and I tear up. And even though, like I said, knew it was coming from the trailers, knew exactly, like, I didn't know how it was going to happen, but I'm like, okay, yeah, I know Xavier's going to die in this movie. But when it happened, it still got me, So like you could still have like you could spoil something in a trailer, but still have that emotional impact from it or whatever. And Mystique, and maybe it was just because of the character of Mystique, like you knew she didn't want to be there to begin with. So maybe it was just like she was just you weren't really all that invested in her. Then say if I mean, obviously they couldn't do it, but like, say if Xavier was the one that died or something, then because you're so invested in, keep forgetting his name, James McAvoy's portrayal, you're so invested in that if he was the one that actually died in that scene, I think it would have been more impactful. You'd have been more like invested in it, been a little more choked up, because you've grown with this character for so long. So, and I think that was probably part of why it hurt in Logan as well. But yeah, just her in these movies, I liked her in First Class, but it just seemed like every movie after that. I mean, I liked her kind of in Days of Future Past too, but it just seemed like every movie after that she was there because contractual obligations, and she didn't really want to be there. So yeah, maybe that's probably part of why like the emotion wasn't there when she died. It was just kind of like, yeah, we knew she wanted out of these movies, so and that's sad. That's sad that they we kind of have that where you kind of know it's, dare I say it, it's the Han Solo scene. It's like, well, yeah, we knew he wanted to die, so it's like he's going to. It's very foreshadowed. Just like, yep, he's going to die, and everything's set it up. It's like there's this whole grand stage, but it was like, yeah, he's dying because he doesn't want to do these movies anymore. And I'm like, it's not because the character's natural progression leads to this. It's just because, like, you just know. You're just like, yep, that's about what I expected to happen. so yeah, maybe that has a lot to do with it as well. I just heard this non-investment in it and everything. So
it was very akin to the Cyclops death in The Last Stand.
Yeah,
he's like, nope,
boom.
I don't want to do this anymore.
Yep.
Gene, will you kill me, please? She's like, I will kill you. That's what Jennifer Lawrence did. She's like, Sophie, I don't want to be here anymore. Will you kill me, please? She's like, I will grant you this boon. You have a great life, Miss Lawrence.
Golly, yeah. I mean, I guess in that same token, I don't think Patrick Stewart wanted to do it anymore after X3. I mean, if you look at that scene, it's hard for me to look at that scene and not laugh at the fact that he's smiling when he dies. It's hard for me to look at, like, right before he dies, he's like smiling. He's just like, yes, I'm free.
Right?
He's like, I'm getting out of this movie now. So yeah.
Agreed to do Family Guy cameos again.
Yes, exactly.
Peace out, Ian.
turning at Logan, smiling like, good luck.
Oh yeah. So yeah, that's pretty much all we got for Dark Phoenix. Cameron, thank you so much for joining us for this review. We really appreciate you coming out and being a part of doing this collaboration with us and everything. Hopefully we get you out here for some more. And hopefully get you in a Comic Junkies corner, because that's going to be funny. I can let you know right now, that is going to be hilarious. Me. Yeah, man. Anytime. Like I said, you can find Cameron on CBM Reviews on YouTube. Follow him on Facebook and Twitter. All that will be in the description down below. He's even got the shirt. Look at that. Hey, he's professional, man. Professional. So yeah, thanks so much for joining us, and we're gonna go ahead and call it quits for this segment, guys, and we will be back with the last review of the day. So stay tuned. We'll be right back. Alright guys, so we are back with the final segment of the show. Like I said, unfortunately, Wild Bill had to get on out of here. He's had wifely obligations and everything. Do not blame him one bit. But yeah, Hakeem's still here. He's going to stick around for the review. Also big shout out to Cameron once again. Thanks for joining us for the Dark Phoenix review. But Hakeem's going to stick around for the Godzilla 2 King of the Monsters movie review. This is another movie where, kind of like Men in Black, I don't have much to say about it. And I will put it this way. There's going to be two kinds of, audience members that go to see this movie. There's going to be audience members who just want to see the big monster fights and the kaiju fest and everything like that. You will get that. Don't even worry about that. You will get that. And if that's what you want out of this film, it delivers. I would say probably it doesn't deliver it enough, but it still delivers. It gives you some good monster fights and everything. If you're going to go see a movie, however, that's an entirely different story. That is okay. So I'll run through some of the good. Obviously, the visual effects are decent. I can't say that they're perfect, but they're pretty decent. When you get to see some of the monsters on screen, they looked pretty good. The only thing that I wish you could see them a little bit clearer. Now, the reason I understand why it's not as clear is because they probably they weren't fully rendered to perfection or whatever. It probably would have cost a whole bunch more money to do these things. But a lot of the battles and stuff, it's kind of shrouded in darkness. Not that you can't see it fully. It's just that it's dark in a lot of places, and there's a lot of shadows, and you can't see the monsters in their full glory. Not like you could in, I would say, Godzilla the first Godzilla movie, where at the end it's like, yes, it was taking place at night, but you could still see the definitions of Godzilla, and you get some of that in this movie, but just not as much as you do in the first one, because like I said, there's a lot of battles and stuff that goes on with, you know, King Ghidorah, Rodan, and stuff, and like it's you can see it. You know who's throwing punches, and he's like about to slap the heck out of him now. You know who's throwing punches, but you don't 100% see, like, you don't see the definition in them, and that was a little bit disappointing. There are some issues with the visuals sometimes. Sometimes it gets a little wonky with King Ghidorah, like his head size changes and stuff like that. But I would say, like, the monster fights are fun. The monster fights are a lot of fun. It's kind of hard not to have fun when you have giant monsters fighting in a city and destroying stuff, especially if that's what you're coming there for and everything. And you will get that. If you're there for that, you will get that. And I think a lot of people on Facebook, you know, when I asked on Facebook, it's like, hey, what'd you think of Godzilla? You know, because we're seeing it a little bit late, but it's like, hey, what'd you think of Godzilla? And most people really enjoyed it, but most people were really just kind of going for that. There was only like a few people who were just like, man, this movie sucked, you know. But most people were just wanting to see monsters fight. You know, they didn't care about like the people. They didn't care about like the little characters or whatever, and like they have their emotional moments. They were just like, I don't care about y'all. Let's see somebody slap somebody right now. You know, like, so like I said, if that's what you're there for, then you will enjoy that. I would say there's probably not enough of it. As far as everything else, the plot is near non-existent, and it was so funny because like there was this couple that was sitting in the theater, and they were kind of like behind us, but also to the left. And they were kind of like a little peanut gallery type thing. The one guy didn't really know how to whisper. It was like the lady was trying to like, it's like, hey, they talk about this and this, that, and the other. She was whispering, but whispering loudly. But the other guy was just like, yeah, man, this movie ain't got no dang plot. And it was actually really funny to kind of hear their comments or whatever, because it was funny. The girl was trying so hard to defend this movie. She's like, it's only the first act. It's okay. You know, they have 2 more acts, and the first act goes by, and the second act goes by. It's only the second act. It's gonna get better, or whatever. But the guy was like completely aware, and just like this movie has no plot. It is extremely exposition heavy. The characters are really just kind of there to explain to you what's going on in the movie, and and you know what's going to happen, how it's happening, and that's pretty much it. I mean, you spend most of the time with the military and this little faction that's going on here. There are other characters in here that have some other motivations. And I'm failing at remembering their name. I need to go ahead and pull up the cast list right here. But you have some other characters that are actually, they have some stuff going on. It's not like it's completely devoid of any kind of stakes or anything like that. But you have Kyle Chandler is his name. He loses, and they go back to the 2014 Godzilla movie. This character loses his son in the rubble, in the fight that Godzilla has with the Muto characters. So he already has this adversity against, you know, the monsters and everything like that. He's like, no, we need to just go ahead and kill him, get him off the, you know, get him before they, you know, kill anyone else. You know, it's like we need to get rid of them. And he was, I would say, married to Vera Farmiga, and Millie Bobby Brown's character. Do not ask me to remember their names because I do not, and I probably will not remember their names in the movie. That's how much development they really have. That's how much really impact they really have, because I blanking 100% on their names, but like he's married. He was married to Vera Farmiga. They have a daughter, Millie Bobby Brown, but the son died in the 2014 accident, and for whatever reason, whereas he is saying like, hey, we need to get rid of these monsters. We need to kill them, and they don't need to be on this planet because they're just going to cause more destruction. She goes the complete opposite, and it's a weird reveal. Because she goes to the point where it's just like, oh, well, they need to be released so they can, promote balance back to the earth or whatever, and stuff. And I'm just like, how did you get there? And it's like, your son died. She's like, I'm doing this for my son. His death must not be in vain. And I'm like, he was killed by the monsters. I'm like, how did you arrive at that point? And she winds up working with the villain of the film because, this movie needs a human villain for whatever reason. And this is your typical... I hate, because I like this guy as an actor, but I hate that he's kind of relegated to the activist. He's the guy, he's the extremist. He's like, people are bad. People are polluting the earth and everything. And we need to release these monsters so they can get rid of us. We're the problem with this planet or whatever. And I'm fine with that if the movie decided to do something with it on on an ethical level. But it doesn't. It's just kind of like, all people are bad. All people need to die and everything. But except them. They get to stay in a safe bunker, while everything else is going on. And it's like, they're the ones that need to live. They don't want to die. Everybody else is like, no, all of y'all are bad. So I'm like, okay, whatever. But so you have that. You have that, age-old thing just where people are just like, oh, people bad, man bad, earth good, and it's just like, well, fine, but if you're going to do that, do something with it. Otherwise, this guy really has no impact on the story. To be perfectly honest, you could take him out. You could take out the human villain, because I'm like, why do you need a human villain when you have monster villains? Like, you legitimately have monster villains. King Ghidorah is the monster villain in this movie, and he's the one that releases the other monsters to do his bidding. So I'm like, why do you need him? I'm just like, what purpose does he serve? He's not really here for anything other than to be a foil to the military. But I'm like, you have giant monsters that, the likes of with none of them have ever dealt with before. So you already have your antagonist. You already have your obstacle that you have to overcome and everything. And it's really like you have to help Godzilla beat King Ghidorah. That's it. Leave it at that. It's like, okay, King Ghidorah just wakes up. Fine. I mean, and Godzilla woke up, and the Mutos woke up. So I'm like, oh, King Ghidorah wakes up. All right. Well, now he's woken up he awakens the other monsters and everything, and now there's this big battle and everything that has to go on. So I don't understand the need for having a human villain. It didn't make any sense to, other than, like I said, it gives the family, Vera Farmiga, and Millie Bobby Brown, and like I said, it gives them something to kind of do. But like I said, I don't understand the motivations to go to that extreme. It doesn't really make sense. So, and if you're wondering about things that don't make sense, there's a lot. The science in the movie really doesn't make sense. There's a lot of what there's a lot of what a lot of critics call science babble or techno babble or whatever. It's just like, oh, we got to do the thing with the thing and the thing and the thing and the thing. And just like, sure. It's like Star Trek when they start explaining like all this stuff or whatever, like that doesn't exist in real life. But it's just like
they may say one word that's actually legit, but then everything else
everything else is like sure, go do that. Fine. It's like there's a reason why Star Wars does not explain a lot of their technology, and when they do, it fails. Like the ships dropping bombs in space or whatever. It was just kind of like, look, we could just go with that, but you gotta explain it. It's like, oh no, it's through the use of magnets. I'm like, well, wait, that doesn't make sense. Like, you're trying to relate to our technology, and I'm just like, that doesn't make sense. I was like, yes, we know dropping bombs in space does not make sense, but sure, they have the ability to create lightsabers. They have the ability to go into hyperdrive, hyperspace, or whatever. And I'm like, they don't have to explain any of that. I'm fine with bombs that drop in space, and there's no real explanation there for it. I'm just like,
which movie is that?
That's Last Jedi. Yeah, they had like at the very beginning, like with the bombers, they drop the bombs from the ship, they drop it in space or whatever. And I'm just like, you know what?
So do they drop from space to
They drop from the ship.
From the ship
Yeah.
onto a planet, or do they explode in space as well?
They drop from the ship onto another ship. And it's like a kamikaze, basically. They just blow themselves up in the process. But like I said, it was just the act of dropping bombs in space. I'm like, can I believe the fact that they would do something like that? Sure. Can I believe the fact that they would do something like that with magnets? And like, not really. It's like once you start introducing once you start introducing it into our technology and trying to relate it to our technology, it's like,
My question would, do you hear it explode? That's my question.
Oh, you hear everything in Star Wars. Everything in space. You hear the explosions, you hear the gunfire.
Because
there's no, exactly.
In reality, you wouldn't be able to hear
Exactly. Yeah, you wouldn't hear anything whatsoever, whatever. And if you really think about it, it's like, should it even explode in space? And it's like, well, but whatever. Just like I said, once you start to introduce it to our realm, it's like, all right, now you've completely lost it. You're just like, you've completely gone off the rails. And they do some of that in this movie where it's just like, there's a lot of technobabble, thermistor, technobabble, freaking, I don't know, monkey or Allen wrench or whatever, or take this and do that. And I'm just like, sure, why not? And a lot of that goes into like how the ships are and how the submarines are working. There might actually be some actual legit terms there that I just don't know because of not being on a submarine. But there's a lot of other stuff as far as that goes around with actually being able to communicate with the monsters and being able to they have the technology to be able to get to analyze what the monster is and recreate the call of its alpha, so the monster won't attack them, essentially. And I was like, okay, that's pretty cool. And they do go into kind of like some detail in as to how it works, and I'm just like, whatever. It's like, this is stuff I probably didn't need to know. I probably just could have been like, okay, yeah, they use this technology to create, the sound that the alpha would make for that particular thing. What I did like, what I thought was a very good thing is that, they created these alpha calls, and that species of monster and everything below it will be like, oh, okay, my bad. Hey, look, we cool and everything. But the ones that are aggressive to that alpha and everything, they attack. And I'm like, right. That's good, because that's how, a lot of animals actually, work. It's like, yeah, you might scare off the little monsters or whatever, but you attract a really big one. So I was like,
who's that up in my house?
exactly. So I thought that was a good little detail in terms of making them function more like animals than I would say monsters. So I thought that was a nice little detail that they added in there and everything. I hate to say it because I don't like, I don't like saying like, I hate to use the term like actors are kind of phoning it in, but to be perfectly honest, none of these guys really care that they're there. They're just, don't get me wrong. Charles Dance, he looks like he's enjoying himself a little bit, but not so much. I think like this is I think he's from Game of Thrones, isn't he? Like he's
I wouldn't know.
yeah. Sorry, you don't watch Game of Thrones either, but yeah, I think he's actually if I remember correctly, he's from Game of Thrones. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments below, but I've seen him act. I've seen scenes with him in it, and I'm just like, okay, yeah, he's good actor and everything. It's just here, he didn't have a lot to do. And I think that's the case with a lot of the characters in this movie, is that they just don't have a lot to do. There's not a lot of real, true, raw emotion that comes from them. It's just like, well, we got to get from point A to point B, and the monsters have to attack. This is why, like I said, this is a lot of why people are here. I will say that it's interesting in terms of how they've backpedaled from the characters, because from the 2014 movie, everyone was really like, I wanted more Godzilla, but if you're going to make us follow this one character, make him interesting, that's why a lot of people were upset when they killed off, Walter White in the movie. I was just like, when they killed him off, I was like, oh, come on, man. Like, we need more. Now we have to follow this guy around who's like, his only objective is to get from point A to point B. And that's it. That's all he really had going for him. Whereas, the other character, his father, was more like, oh, there was a mystery behind that. He was trying to solve stuff, trying to uncover things. You were interested in what he was doing and what was going on with him because he had a serious emotional attachment. And yes, like the son was trying to get to his girlfriend and his daughter, or his daughter or son. I think it was son, actually, right?
Daughter.
His daughter?
Yeah, daughter.
Okay, yeah. So like he was trying to get to them and save them and everything. So I'm like, yeah, but his only goal was to get from point A to point B. It's like riding that. It was the equivalent of riding next to somebody on a subway, and they were just kind of like, you just have like small talk with them, and it's just like, it's a nice day, isn't it? So what do you think about those monster attacks, huh? Just like you're having small talk with them. It's like there was nothing really going on there. And that was one of the big criticisms that a lot of people had, other than the fact that they kept teasing Godzilla and not showing us the action a lot. A lot of the big criticisms that people had was like, man, we could have just, if you're going to make us follow somebody, have us follow somebody that's interesting or whatever. So we get Kong Skull Island, and they do the exact opposite. They give them like no character. It's just like, oh, they're just people. It's like, oh, there's the villain. There's the two pretty people. They'll be around at the end of the movie. Don't worry about them. They're not going to die. You got the guy that's out here for money. You got the guy that's like 3 days away from retirement. And I was just like that, but that's it. That's all they had going for them. There was nothing there. It was like blank slate. And you kind of got the same here. Yeah, you really do. You have the same here. They don't have a lot to do. The characters don't have a lot to do. And that's disappointing because Vera Farmiga is a great actress. Millie Bobby Brown from Stranger Things. Like, we know that she's good, and she may be the best person in the movie, to be honest. Like, she may be, because like she's a kid. She's got some attitude to her and everything, but she feels like a real teenager. She feels like a real teenage girl. And maybe that's just her bringing out her natural, talent and everything, and just like, or just, she is a actual teenage girl, so it's just like, I just be myself, So I'm just like, oh, okay, so she may be the best. Actually, she may be the best actress in the movie. To be perfect, she may be the best actor in the movie. To be perfectly honest, if you're looking for that epic, if you're looking for something epic from Ken Watanabe, sorry, you're not going to get that. You don't get the let them fight sequence in here or whatever. But I will say, and this is something I kind of skipped over, I will say they get started fighting right away. They do not waste time. It's not like, like I said, it's not like King Kong. It's not like Godzilla from 2014 where you have to wait, and get the climactic battle. It's like, no, we're going to give you what you want right away. Very much like Kong Skull Island. Kong shows up within like the first 15 minutes, and he's like, or first 5 minutes or whatever, and he's already there. It's just, they immediately have that action and everything. As far as like, there's a lot of problems narratively, but I don't know. This is one of those movies where it's like, man, I almost wish you were stupider. Just like if you're gonna be dumb, you're gonna have these dumb moments in the movie, whatever. There's moments. There's a moment where King Kong. Why do I keep calling him that? But there's a moment where Godzilla is literally standing on water. And then, like, he's just standing there. I'm like, well, it's like, dude, what you standing on? And then he dives underneath the water. I'm like, but what did you dive from? Like, the submarine literally came up in the same spot. And it's like, what did you dive from? There's a moment where God, Jesus, man. I keep calling him King Kong. He's going to come through the window and beat my ass. Right? Just go see his big hand just come out of nowhere and grab. It's like, look, God dang it. But there's a point where, like, King Ghidorah grabs Godzilla, pulls him up to basically out of orbit, and drops him. So, like, you think somebody as big as Godzilla, this is like an extinction level event if he hits the Earth, right?
It's like from Ultron.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like, if he hits the Earth, everybody's dead, and there is no coming back from that or whatever. It's like, nah, a little dust cloud kicks up or whatever.
And I can imagine him not being, as massive as that the town from what you call it,
Sokovia. Yeah. I mean, he's huge. Like, his foot is like the size of a building, So I'm like, this thing hits the ground. We're all dead. At the very least, everyone within like a 500-mile radius should be just wiped out, obliterated. But nah, a little dust cloud kicks up. Everything's fine. People are like at least like literally like 100 feet away. There's like, shoot, just like cover. There's like, that was rough.
Did he get dropped in water or like
on ground, solid ground? Like, I think he got dropped in a baseball stadium or something like that. Like, he dropped, like he was burning up on re-entry coming down. Wow. Yeah.
I don't know what kind of earth they're on.
I mean, like, according to this particular world, there's tunnels under the earth or whatever. There's pockets under the earth where people can survive or whatever, but it's where Godzilla hangs out or whatever. Then they detonate this nuclear blast because Godzilla goes up against King Ghidorah, and he loses the first fight pretty bad. But he goes up against him, he loses, so he goes down into his little trench or whatever, and he's trying to recover. He's absorbing the juices, the radioactivity, right, and all the stuff from everything. And he's like, okay. I was like, well, if we help him out, we can help him. Let's detonate this nuke. There's nuclear bomb down there, and now that'll recharge his battery a lot quicker, because this could take years. And with King Ghidorah controlling all these monsters, he's going to wipe out everything on this planet, life, as we know it. Not just human life, but everything. So they detonate this nuke, and I'm just like, well, I hope that doesn't have any effect on the core of the Earth, that you just detonated a nuclear bomb down there. But also, I'm just like, so where's he gonna go now? Like, you literally just destroyed his home. So like there, that whole point where he's standing on the water and he's actually looking a little bit pissed at them or whatever, and I'm just kind of like, I mean, yeah, I'd be mad too. And I'm just like, you just destroyed my. Do you know how long it took me to decorate that today? And I finally got everything where I needed it, where I wanted it, and you had to just blow it up. But I'm just like, but I am curious. I'm like, where would he go now? You know, like he has nowhere to go. You blew it up. Yeah, he's supercharged and everything now, but. I you know, stuff like that. I'm just like, I didn't understand it, you know, just like I didn't understand like how they could be so scientific and fail on science so much. And I'm just like, I didn't get it, you know, like, you know, I didn't get like, you know, when people would, when Godzilla first showed up in First Godzilla, he created a suit like a tidal wave, huge ass tidal wave, right?
Yeah, just by the coming
out of the water. Nah, not this time. No, every time he comes out of the water, it's just fine. Whatever, nothing happens. You know, like he stomps around and people don't hear him or feel him. None of that. You know, there's none of that. You know, he's still able to like sneak up on people. I don't know how he sneaks up on things or whatever, but it's just like Ghidorah's about to, you know, chomp down on somebody or whatever. Next thing you know, it's just like, and I'm like, the frick did you come from?
Your wings flapping, glass breaking.
Yes. But like this dude should be creating shockwaves with every freaking. He should be creating earthquakes with every step, and we've seen that. We've seen him like you say come out of the water, cause this huge tidal wave or whatever. He steps and he causes these big, tremors and earth. It does cause like in the immediate vicinity and everything, but nothing here. Now he just comes up and he's just like. I was like, I don't know what you're doing. I don't like it's stuff like that, but it's so funny when I think about it because I'm like, man, I almost wish this was dumber. Because, you got your dumb movies like Jurassic World 2 and Fallen Kingdom. And it's just like, where it's just like, okay, this is just batshit insane. You got Rampage. I almost kind of wish it was a little bit more like Rampage because Rampage was like was idiocy, but it was completely 100% aware. It was just like, yeah, we know this is dumb, but screw it, we're having fun, you got Negan in there leaning over and everything like that. He's just fully aware that he's doing his Walking Dead thing or whatever, and it's like you got The Rock being The Rock and everything. And I'm just like, yeah, they're just. Everybody was a caricature. And that's kind of the same for this movie where everyone's kind of like a caricature of a real person. They're not real people. I would probably say, I'd give a little bit of exception for Millie Bobby Brown, his character or whatever. I still don't remember her name. But I would give kind of an exception for her because she felt like a real teenage girl or whatever. But no one else really felt like a real person. And I would probably give the same comparison that I would give to the Punisher movies, the one from 1989, and I think that's right. Is it 1989 or 1990? One of them, So you had that, and then you had the one from 2004. Whereas, like both of them, look, they were caricatures, both movies, but it seemed like, the one with Dolph Lundgren and the one with Dolph Lundgren and Lou Gossett Jr., like that one, they knew 100%. They were just like, man, we don't care. We just, you just want to look. You came here to see the Punisher punish and shoot things and stuff. So I'm like, we got the Punisher, we got the mob, and we got ninjas. That's what you came here to see. We're like, the plot out here, So it was very much aware of that. But you had the 2004 Punisher, which tried to be more story driven and more dark and more serious, but still had that silly tone, and still had the characters that were just kind of like, yeah, y'all are not real, It's like, and I think part of that was because they were trying to make it fit into the Spider-Man universe. I think that was a good bit of why that it was feeling that way and everything. The same thing goes for these movies. Whereas Rampage is a stupid movie. It's very dumb, but it knows it is. It knows 100%. It's just like, Rampage, we want to destroy buildings. screw everything else. Screw like character. All that. Like, you came here to see The Rock be The Rock. You came here to see Negan Lean, and you came here to see, three particular monsters destroy a city. That's what you came here to see, and then eventually fight. Who cares about anything else? So that's that movie. This one tries to have somewhat of a plot, but doesn't. It's like it starts to have a plot and doesn't finish. It's like we kind of got one, and we try to take things a little bit seriously, but I'm just like, yeah, maybe you shouldn't. Maybe you should be like dumb. You're still going to be a very bad movie, but at least you're almost aware of it. It's like, look, Godzilla gets dropped from space or whatever, and I'm just like, at this point, I would have been more content with the monsters talking and having dialogue than having people in the movie.
Yeah, I was gonna say something to that end, like when you said they had a whole lot of exposition in there. I was like, how can we really have a big monster movie with there being no humans to tell us like what's going on between these two? I'm like, I don't know. Like if not, then you would have to have the dinosaurs or monsters talking or something like that, and that would just take away the whole believability, and even maybe even the tone that you're trying to go for it. But I'm sure some movies can pull it off, if they want to keep it as a serious tone, but still have monsters talking in it. Mm-hmm. But just having the monsters talk, it's like,
yeah, I would have almost rathered it, man. They already
depends on who they have voicing for the monsters. Like have them deep tone voice.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of a monster in a movie that had a voice in it, and they was like they were good with it. I don't remember, but I think it could have been pulled off.
You could pull it off, and I'm just saying there's a lot of especially Japanese voice actors that could have really pulled it off as far as they'd be speaking Japanese, you have to read subtitles, but it is what it is. But there's a lot of people over there that could really pull that off. They can have some dialogue or whatever, or have this little this picture that I found. They already got fan fiction going out there. This is like, all right. Really, it's like it's gonna be up there caressing. It's like, baby, I don't want to fight no more. But if I were, it's funny, I'm kind of going off topic here, but if I were going to cast somebody as King Ghidorah, it would have been Jeremy Irons, because the moment he picks up Godzilla and drops him from space, the only thing I could think of was, long live the king. And just drop. And then Godzilla's like, like Mufasa or whatever. And I was just like, that was the only thing that's popping into my, because it looked just like it for the most part. It was just like, it was almost like a shot for shot remake, because Godzilla's like falling down. And then, but I was. I think if you're, obviously they can't do that with this series, because we've already established the monsters don't talk or anything like that. You got the people here, and to your point, we were talking about it earlier and saying can we have these movies? Can we have these kind of movies? Because I know it's some people will comment and they'll say well, look, if it's a monster movie. What do you want? It's just a movie with monsters. Just people running around from them, whatever. They're fighting, and they're being animals, whatever. Sorry, my eyes are burning, so I apologize for that. But it's can we have a movie that's that has some good characters or whatever? And my go-to is always going to be Jurassic Park. The first Jurassic Park movie, because that movie was able to deliver, show us the the animalistic nature of the dinosaurs, show us that these dinosaurs are dangerous, scary, and they can be viewed as monsters, but also gave us compelling characters. It gave us some decent messages, asked some decent questions. It had a decent script, and you had character development, character progression, and things like that. It's just like you can do it. Is what I'm getting at. You can do that. But, like I said, it just depends on what you want going in to see this movie. Like, if you want to see, like I said, if you just going to see the monsters fight and you don't care about the humans, your biggest probably complaint will be that there's not enough of the fights. Like it does start right away. Like within the first 5 minutes, you got like a fight going on or whatever. Godzilla shows up and King Ghidorah, like they're getting at one another and stuff. But, excuse me. But yeah, like your complaint might be that there's not enough. There's still not enough. I would say that there's still not enough. And I would say, but if you're going into like you want a movie that has, a coherent plot, one that you'll care about, characters that are more than what their traits are, just like, because that's what their real traits are: villain, good guy, military person, skeptical judge, and, guy that believes that the monsters are providing us, or will help provide balance and restore balance to the earth and stuff like that. So it's pretty on the nose in terms of that. Godly, my eye keeps burning, man. The allergies are acted up really bad today. So I guess that means the pollen's pretty high or something. But the messages about like, humanity and what we've done to the environment, it's pretty on the nose, because after everything goes down and, obviously is it a spoiler to say that Godzilla wins the fight? With this kind of movie, is it really a spoiler or whatever to say like they win? Like a spoiler would be like Godzilla loses. That's a spoiler. Just
even
like
then I'm like, what?
Yeah, exactly.
I gotta check this out.
exactly. So it's just like, it's like with Infinity War. It's like, no, Thanos won at the end. He what? Like, yeah, it's like, yeah, Thanos won. Like the bad guy won. Huh? No, that can't. Let me go see this.
Disney made this movie.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, and golly, man, I gotta. Can you hand me a tissue from over there?
That's why I had grabbed mine earlier.
Yeah, I was just like, I don't know why my eyes are burning. I'm just like, what the heck's going on? I'm like, pollen must be really high or something like that, man. This is killing me. Yeah, so I feel like I'm okay now. But yeah, like I said, it's not a spoiler to know that Godzilla he wins at the end and everything, and all the monsters bow to him. And like, I will say, Rodan in this movie is probably one of the slimiest. He's like that. He's that slimy guy that's in the movie that turns on. He's a traitor for the most part. He's the guy that will go with the person that's winning at that current point in time. He will turn on you in the drop of a hat. But the second Godzilla won, he's just like, oh, my liege. I pledge my allegiance to you. And I'm just like, oh, whatever, man. So Rodan's funny in that regard, but like they all bow to the king and everything like that. But the moment that movie is over, they have all these messages. It was just like, oh, the rainforest is coming back to life. Oh, all these crops are coming back. This species is no longer endangered or whatever. And I'm
Instantly?
just like, what? Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much like, oh, they restored balance. How many people are alive? I have no idea. I do know this. Their new studios are pristine. So whatever they destroyed, everything else except the news studios, because there's still people in there delivering the news. They're giving us, the lowdown of what's going on. They're still dressed in nice suits and dresses and everything. You would think like they're in a bunker all hunkered down, and it's, they're all like worn down, like no makeup or anything, and they're just like, this may be my last broadcast. But I'm willing to sacrifice it to give you the news and everything. You would expect something like that. It's like, no, it's just like, there's still the weather girl, just like, it's going to be partly cloudy today. Chance of showers later on this afternoon. And, you might want to stay away from this area because this is where the mammoth monster is attacking right now. But it's just like, really? we still have this going on? But like I said, it's moments like that where I'm just like, that these are stupid moments, but you almost needed more of that to laugh at, because there wasn't a lot to really just kind of to gravitate. There wasn't enough character for you to get emotionally attached to anybody. So I would say that there's not enough character for you to get emotionally attached, because have you seen The Meg with Jason Statham?
No.
There's a point in that movie where it's just kind of like, oh man, I feel kind of bad for y'all. Something happened. There's a death and it's taken really seriously. And I'm like, usually like deaths in B movies are just like, oh, somebody died. Oh, that's sad. Or like, no, for a second. And like, they're fine. Like 2 minutes later, they're fine. But there was moments in The Meg I was kind of like surprised by. Is it cheesy and silly? I'm like, yeah, but there was a moment where it was just kind of like, oh wow, I just genuinely feel bad. That kind of sucks, I'm like, oh snap, But there's nothing like that in this movie that really pulls you towards that, or makes you care that much. But at the same time, there's not enough silliness in there to where you can just laugh at it, just kind of like go balls to the wall. Like it's not Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom where you're just like, are you serious? Are you kidding me? You're cracking up half the time because you're like, this is insane. Somebody agreed to this? There's not enough of that. So you're not on either side. So as I said, either way you slice it, this is a bad film. This is like bottom. This may be one of the worst of the year, maybe. But in terms of like film quality, in terms of like entertainment, that's subjective to you. It's just like, all right, hey, like I just want to see monsters fight. I'm fine with that. And hey, go for it. Like I said, they have it. Is it fun when it's going on? Sure is. I don't know. I kind of Rodan grew on me after a while. I don't know why. I just thought his character was so funny. He's just like this, like I said, this little slimy ass dude, whatever. It has entertainment value. It does. If you're into that kind of thing. If you're not, this is not the movie for you. Do not even waste your money on it. Like this is, but. For those, I would say Godzilla fans, there's some Easter eggs in there. The twins from one of the original Godzilla movies from the Japan actually they don't make an appearance, but there's a reference to them in the film, and I thought that was pretty neat. There's references probably all over the place. There's only a few that I can think of coming to mind, but it's, if you're a Godzilla fan, I'm pretty sure JoJo, he's just like, oh, characters to hell, man. He's like, I didn't come here for that. I came here to see the king. Right. So I'm pretty sure he enjoyed it just from like, because I asked him, did he see it? He's like, yes. And I'm like, okay, yeah. I don't think I have to ask if he enjoyed it or not. So completely understand if you do enjoy this movie. I enjoyed it partially, like I said, I enjoyed the monster fights. Just wasn't enough of it. It wasn't, like I said, it just wasn't dumb enough. If you're going to be dumb, be dumb. If you're going to have emotional moments and try to bring us into these characters or try to make us relate to them and make us feel for them, then you need to dig a little bit deeper than what's on the surface. It's the only thing I'll say about that. But other than that, Yeah, it's pretty bad. It's pretty bad. If it's getting hammered by critics, I don't know if it is or not. If it's getting hammered by critics, I completely get it. If it's being loved by audiences, I completely get it. It could be one of those. What movie that happened with? Probably. I'd probably say Justice League. Like Justice League had I think when that first came out, it was the audience score was really high, but the critic score was really low. So I'd probably say it may be somewhere around there, because I would like to think, and it's not always the case. It's not, because we just finished talking about critics trashing on Dark Phoenix, but it's I would like to think that they would judge these movies based on their quality. I would like to think that most critics do that. And if you're judging this movie based on quality, it's a poor quality film. It's bad. But if you're judging it based on your enjoyment, entertainment level, and just sheer awesomeness, because there's some awesome moments in here or whatever. There's some moments where you're just you start getting into it, and everything. You start your inner Mickey comes out from Rocky. He comes out get up, you bum, get up, fight this guy hard. There's moments where he comes out of you hey, I would say I said, I completely understand if it's getting trashed. And I completely understand if general audiences like I said, the people who just want to see some monsters fight love this movie. Completely get it. I'm kind of sitting on the fence where I was I like this. This is appealing to me, but this just is not. So it is what it is. I'm tired, man. I'm not really feeling the films that have come out this year a lot. And I'll talk more about this obviously towards the end of the year, because it's only halfway through. Still got Spider-Man coming out. You still got some animated features coming out. But after that, there's not a lot until October, which is the Joker, and December, which is Star Wars, which I don't think any of us are excited for. Even the fans of our particular group don't really care. So, but yeah, I just haven't been really that impressed with anything that's come out. I was expecting, at the very least, Endgame to be the standout. And there are standout moments in Endgame. We could talk about those all day, but I'm just hey, there are standout moments in it. But the movie as a whole, I'm just well, no, you didn't make the cut. So I'm just at least something should, be the big standout, awesome fest that has great characters and great writing and just have the action and suspense and just superhero-ness to go with it and everything. So it's a little disappointing. I remember last superhero summer, it was man, we were all into it. I think we had one bad movie that we reviewed, and that was Solo. But Incredibles 2, we're just Incredibles 2. Deadpool 2 was not as good as the first, but we're just get into Deadpool 2. But other than that, last year was a lot more fun than this year was, because there was, like I said, there was always something to stand out for that. Last year's superhero summer, we had fun. This one was kind of oh no. I don't know. What about you? Do you have any standout movies this year?
Movies as a whole.
Mm-hmm. I think I know what yours is. But go ahead.
It came out this year?
Yeah.
See, those that I have seen.
And then actually, I think I know what yours might be.
I don't know what mine might be.
No, I think I know what yours might be, and I might be in agreement with that as far as the film that I liked the most. But I would say Super Broly.
Bro, yeah, I'll go with that.
Yeah,
I was out because I watched it. I seen it 3 times already.
Mm-hmm.
So I would put. Did Spider-Verse come out this year?
No, that was last year.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, no, that would be in this.
Yeah, that was 2018, the very, very end. But yeah, like I would probably piggyback off of that and say that was probably, even though there was stuff in there I didn't like, I felt like, just there were some issues that writing wise, I'm like, Toriyama, come on, man. But I would say that's probably the most enjoyable experience that I've had. And I said, like, there were moments in Endgame. I'm like, yeah, I know. Shazam was fun. Men in Black was just, it was a movie. Let's see. Dark Phoenix was disappointing. It could have been. Oh man, it just makes me so upset. That could have been really great.
It had the potential.
Yes.
Mass acceleration due to gravity and the height. But
they
failed.
Yeah, basically.
It grew too much Connecticut.
Yep. Glass.
I don't think personally, when I was going through the Broly movie. Yeah, I gotta remember. I talked too low. Yeah, for me personally, when I was going through the Broly movie, it wasn't like I was like picking up on any, like, I guess if you want to say like plot holes or any like retcons or anything like that. Like I was thoroughly, I was thoroughly enjoying, that movie. Versus with Endgame, like there was things that I can clearly see or point out as like,
right.
What? Like, even though it had like some of these epic moments in it, like there still was these things that happened here. Like, why wasn't this good over here when we had all this other good stuff in it?
Yeah, exactly, and like they were much more apparent. And the thing with and here's what I'll say: like, if you're not familiar with the Dragon Ball mythos, you can go see Dragon Ball Super Broly and understand what's going on in that film. If you were to just say like, oh, this is a standalone film, but apparently this is canon, and that was the thing that bothered me, is that it was canon and they did the retcons in the canon. That, like, within the canon, that doesn't make a lot of sense. But
or I guess you could say the retcon started in the new mangas that Toriyama created, and then we use those for the movie.
Yeah, and even then, I'm still like, you can't go back and change something like something like that, and then like you realize you're drastically changing a particular character that you created and everything. And I'm just like, look, if somebody else wrote something, then somebody else wrote something. Stick with it. Go with it. You'll be fine. But I would say this: if you go in and you watch it as a film, just standalone, as an audience member, you'd get it. You'd understand. You're like, okay, oh, well, this guy's like Superman. All right, that's his friend or whatever. That's his angry friend. Okay, we're good. And there's this other guy that's, you understood. You understood like what was going on. You understood the motivations of people and everything. It's like you got it. You understood it. I would say like there's not a lot of plot holes in. I don't recall any in Dragon Ball Super Broly. I don't recall any. There were some moments where I was just kind of like, oh, that was probably not, him killing, like Frieza killing Paragus, and it's played off as a joke or whatever. And I'm just kind of like, okay, the Frieza wanting height. I was like, when was that ever a thing? I was like, so he's General Red now from Dragon Ball. I'm just like, all right, So it's like certain things. I'm like, all right, that don't make a lot of sense. But like as far as plot holes and inconsistencies within the film, no. But if you go watch Endgame, you're like, no. Well, why is this way? Well, why is this way? Wait, that doesn't. You start picking out all the stuff, and you realize like it falls apart the longer the movie goes, the more it starts to fall apart narratively and through the script, and like it just falls apart. So that would be the same thing. That will be the difference, I would say, with Dragon Ball Super Broly. Even though it does some things within the retcons within the franchise that hurt it, but that
I didn't care. I didn't care.
I understand.
Because I'm one of those was like if somebody were to watch it that was like not a part of the anime, fandom, and they come in and they see this movie and they say, oh, they kind of like made him like, Superman. I would look at them like, he is not Superman. Shut your mouth right now.
Yeah, I mean, that was the thing. But see, that was the thing. Like, I know that because I'm a big fan of the franchise. Like, man, I know he's not like Superman. So I'm like, why, Toriyama, are you trying to force that Superman mythos on Goku? I'm like, that's not who Goku is, and it was funny because it was interesting because when they did the dub, the first Funimation dub, and they had Goku just like, I am the protector of the universe. I am I'm the light, and I stand up for all that is true. I'm like, that's not what he's saying, because I'd seen the scene in Japan. I was just like, that's not what he's saying. Like he's not. There. It made him out to like. That's when people started to really compare him to Superman, and why a lot of people who are fans of the series and fans of the manga were just like, wait, what are you doing? Why are you making him like this or whatever? And I'm just like, no. That's why I was like, when they redid it and they made it Dragon Ball Kai, and they redid his dialogue. He was the one character I was just like, man, y'all got Goku now. I'm like, that you got it now. You understand who he is and everything, and they don't have to. They gave his dialogue was ironically better, and then other people's actually suffered. Other characters suffered because their time was cut and everything. But he actually got a lot better, and actually things that were happening within the series, if you watch the English dub, make more sense for him. So that's the one thing I was just like, all right, people were mad because Funimation or Toei Animation or whoever was doing Funimation, they were doing the dubbing, and they were just like, well, you guys made him like Superman. He's not like Superman. Why would you do that? People were mad about that. And then, I guess, 20 some odd years later, turns around and does it anyway. And I'm like, why? Why would you do that? And it's like, the guy in the theater was even like, I was like, well, why would they do that? Like, I don't understand the whole Superman thing or whatever. I'm just like, he's the last son of Vegeta or whatever, and I'm just like, do we need that? Do you have to do it that way or whatever? I'm just like, I felt what was in the canon originally was fine. That worked towards okay, yeah, the Saiyans are not good people. Don't make them out to be. Do they have feelings and stuff like that? And I was just like, well, they're a warrior race, so their feelings only extend but so far. But they've never been experienced. But that's because they've never been around anybody but themselves and other ruling factions like the Frieza Force and stuff like that. And they don't give a crap about any of them. So I was just like, yeah. So love was never a commodity that really happened. So when they got to Earth, it made sense. That Goku hit his head. So obviously he grows up for the most part a human. If you really count it, it's like he grows up human, but it made sense that Vegeta would reject this, reject this lifestyle, and just reject these feelings. It was like, I'm not used to this. This doesn't happen. This is not how this is supposed to go. This is not how life is supposed to happen, because he grew up for the first, 20 some odd, 20, 30 years of his life one way. So, and when Toriyama did the retcon the way he did, like I say, in the manga and in the movie, it was like it doesn't make sense anymore. it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. I was just like, all right, so Goku was always a good kid. He wasn't sent to Earth to destroy it or whatever. And because even when they got him, they make reference to this in Dragon Ball. They say oh no, he was a rowdy kid. He was ready to destroy stuff. He was always fighting and everything. But I'm like, no, he wasn't like that as a kid. On Planet Vegeta, he was more so I'd probably say Gohan. Just really, he was like a regular baby, a regular kid or whatever. Just he didn't want to be away from his parents or whatever. Love was already a thing on that planet. So when you go back and I was like, okay, well, love was already a thing. If that was already a thing, love on the level that we experience it anyway. They obviously, like I said, they care, but they can only care so much, because they're all soldiers and everything. It's if you're in the military for so long, you've been overseas and fighting for so long, you realize I develop relationships, but I can only be so close to them because they are not gonna. There's a chance they're not gonna be here 2 seconds from now. All right. So yeah, I was disappointed with that, and I would say when they did those retcons, it didn't make a lot of sense to the canon of what's already established in Dragon Ball, Dragon Ball Z. So it didn't make a whole lot of sense there. But I said that aside, like I said, somebody comes in and watches the movie, doesn't know a thing about Dragon Ball Z. They could just, they're just, but they do like action and well, let's be real, well told, well laid out characters, because that was the most, well, you don't really have a lot to to compare it to with the original Broly, because the original Broly was just mad because Goku was crying. Yeah. So I was you got this other sympathetic character, in Broly. So I'm oh wow, okay, you got something there. And I'm just I feel like somebody watching, Dragon Ball Super Broly, and somebody give that same person and watches Endgame. They're gonna have a whole lot more questions in Endgame than there are going to have in Dragon Ball Super Broly once they start thinking about it. The most they'll have questions about was just well, what's Goku about or whatever, or what's this guy Vegeta? Why is he so angry? What's this guy Vegeta about or whatever? Who's Bulma or whatever? They might have some questions like that. Just oh well, such and such. You'll have to go into some detail because there's a whole franchise behind that and everything. But I guess at the same token, you could be well, the person's never seen anything else other than Endgame. You're well, who's this Captain America character? What's he all about? Well, this is Iron Man. Why are they mad at each other? I'm just well, what happened or whatever. And I was just well, whole thing. This guy's best friend killed his mom and his dad. Well, that's a good reason to be mad. So yeah. That's it. I don't have much of anything. I don't have much of anything else to say about Godzilla. It is what it is. This is definitely going to be one of those, take it as you want to, take from this review what you will, and I would say, like I said, if you're here to see some kaiju, mashup goodness or whatever,
kaiju showdown.
Yes, there you go. Yeah, if that's what you want to see, then hey, this movie is for you. If you don't care about the characters or the people, you're just there to see monsters fight. This movie's for you. If you are one of those people who wants to see movie that has some decent characters, even and I mean decent characters. They don't have to be Oscar-worthy characters. I'm just saying decent characters and a plot that's coherent and it follows through. This ain't for you, man. This ain't for you. If you're not a Godzilla fan, this is not for you. This just ain't gonna do it. This just not gonna do it. So I don't even know how. I gotta look up, see what the reception is. Because, other than the people on Facebook, I haven't really seen, the audience reception. I've seen that people have reviewed it. but not a lot of people in the group of critics that, you know, you might see us share stuff on social media about or whatever. But like the group of critics that, you know, that the circle that we run in and everything, I haven't seen much of anything from them. Excuse me. I think one guy reviewed it. The 1 Minute Critic. I think he reviewed it. I think 1 Minute Critic's the only guy that reviewed it, and he just said like, yeah, you know, it was entertaining. You know, so basically the same thing we said, just in a minute. So, but he does it like because he does it in a minute, he can't provide examples, et cetera, et cetera. So, but yeah, that's pretty much it. You got anything else to add, Hakeem? Are you ready to go eat?
Yeah, I'm ready to go eat.
Yeah, all right. I'm ready to go eat as well. So thank you guys for tuning into the Realcast Movie Monday. This has been Superhero Summer. I hope next summer is a lot better. We've just, like I said, I have a lot of lackluster films or whatever. Thank you guys for tuning in. Be sure to go check out Cameron's channel. Big shout out to him. But go check out the Immortal Nerd here. Go check out his channel. As always, you know, link is always in the descriptions down below. You go follow us on the social media. All of our links, and like I said, all of those social media links, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all of that's in the description down below. And yeah, guys, just have a great day, have a great night, have a great morning, whatever day or time of day you're listening to this. And thanks for watching. We will see you in the next one.